Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the UIS. I doubt anyone is here because YouTube is screwing up and not letting me go live. Let me just delete this other live stream, the second one I tried. And so now we are third time around, and it does appear that we are finally live. I mean, I could admit that I screwed up the very first time, but we're not going to do that. We're going to put the blame solely on YouTube where it belongs. Hey, Andrew, how are you doing? Let me see. So I'm deleting the other live stream that never actually went anywhere. And so we'll wait a couple of moments. See if anybody else wanders in. YouTube is so slow sometimes. All right, let me check this out. We are definitely live. Looks like we got 7 up in here at the moment. Good. I do apologize for the other 2 weird happenings. Like I said, I could take the blame for the first one, but since YouTube screwed up the second one, I'm going to consider it their fault too, in a roundabout way. It is always YouTube's fault. So yeah, Cobra's celebration of life went a lot better than I hoped it would. I was afraid there was going to be a lot of trolls. There were trolls, you know. I mean, I was there. What do you expect? I don't consider myself an actual troll, but I said a few trolly things. Not to do with Cobra, really, but, you know, I think when they talked about his dog Chance dying, and I said wrong, Chance died. And there was a couple of comments about now that I said, and a couple of just little tidbits. Nothing bad. I didn't say anything just awful the way some people did. Hey, Trishalicious, good to see you. How are you doing tonight? I didn't see any comments from you last night, but that chat was fast. And so I wasn't sure if it was going to be a live stream, and those who've gone live know that by default, for some reason, the live chat replay is unchecked. So if you don't know what you're doing, you might end up losing your chat after the live stream is over. But it wasn't really a live stream. It was more of a produced video that was premiered. And so it is still on Cobra's channel, and the chat is intact. So that's good. Let's see what we got. Chat was moving so fast, could barely see anything. I know. And at the very beginning, people were asking for slow mode, but there's no, I don't think anyone is in control of that channel that knew how to do that. That video made out your friend crazy. Talk about that some night. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I couldn't say that I wouldn't say in that video. I mean, there's a possibility I could get sued for some of the stuff I wanted to say, and I just didn't want to do that because it goes beyond just him. It goes beyond his wife, One thing I didn't mention in the video was that I knew her before I knew him. I knew her from high school, and I met him through her. And so I had worked on computers long before I ever met him, but it was just operations. It was TRS-80. It was, messing around in DOS, screwing around with the old Civilization game, changing the wording from the game's text file. But he taught me everything that I currently know that, I couldn't have done the things that I've done without him. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely weird. And he was into guns. I didn't really get into that either. And I sometimes, feel partly to blame for it because I'm the one who gave him his first gun. But he's not the one who gave his son his gun. So that's his son's own thing. So but I always think that, you know, if I hadn't given him that gun, I mean, it wasn't like he was a youngster when I gave it to him. I mean, I think we were both probably close to 30 years old at the time. So, and it was a very shitty little gun too. It was just, you know, looked like a James Bond gun. I don't even think it was a Walther, but it was looked very similar. And I didn't make him shoot it. Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, a lot to get into, and a lot that I don't know, a lot that his brother doesn't know. It really sucks. If you saw the news clips, you saw his brother, you saw his dad. His dad is not doing so well. He's got what, stage 4. Can't remember where his cancer is, but it's bad. He's in hospice. So I did want to add a few more things to it. I thought I'd try to make it longer, but then, you know, the longer it is, the less people who really don't have any real interest to begin with are going to sit through it. So made it for me, made it for him, made it for his family. I was going to add a few more pictures and stuff, but I decided to go ahead and release it, knowing that his Joe's dad is in hospice right now. He knew I was making the video, but he had not seen it. So hopefully he'll get a chance to see it. Oh, poor Cobes. Wasteland Fitness. Thought he would last another 10 years. Yeah, it's even with how he treated his body, it was still too young. Explore with us. Oh yeah, I love EU. I think they call it EWU crew. They've got so many different channels. They have a body cam channel, and then there's Jim Can't Swim, or JCS. That's a good one for crime stuff. I appreciate it. You thought I did a good job. I was kind of winging it there. I almost thought about re-recording the whole thing because of some of the way I sounded robotic in some areas, but I did try to, I re-recorded most of the ones, and it wasn't because I sounded robotic, it was because I edited, things out. Too many pauses and try to make it go a little smoother. So, I've got Cobra's Celebration of Life open right now. I did not want to make this a, if you want to watch the video, you watch the video. But I wanted to talk, see what you guys thought about it. We can definitely watch some clips. Can look at some of the chat stuff. Like I said, there was some bad stuff in there, but not as bad as I thought it would be. I did not see one instance of a fake Cobra. I didn't see a fake Jessica Boyle. I didn't see a fake Josh's mom, All of these people I expected to see multiple versions of. And I'm glad it didn't happen. And chances are, since it wasn't a true live stream, I don't think Clint was just sitting there staring at the chat, trying to pick apart every single thing. Because there was some tough stuff to read in there. Hey, H-Bomb, how you going? How you doing? How's it going? We are talking about Cobra's Celebration of Life, H-Bomb. Going to take a look at it a little bit, look at some stuff. Also had a chance, if anyone wanted to talk about it, actually physically, literally talk, we can do that. We don't really have a panel going tonight, but if someone wants to talk, I think World Skipper, you had said you wanted to say some stuff, and now is a good time. If you are able to, you can always do it some other time. But we can just have an actual Discord call and put you on. Like I said, the video, though, was very nice. Let's go ahead and open this. Yeah. Revan616, quite a touching tribute to Cobes. I'm glad I stayed up to watch it. I am too. I'm glad I watched it. There was a lot of sharing in there from Clint. a lot of things that apparently, people didn't know. A lot of stuff about Cobes, some of the problems he had, the actual problems, names for it, and things like that. And so we'll start off. We'll play a little bit of the intro before the actual video began. And it was shitty in chat. There was some shit at the very beginning during Clint's intro to the video. People telling him to get on with it and quit making this about you. It was kind of shitty, but that's how the internet is.
Hello and welcome to Josh's celebration of life. I'm really glad you could make it. I need to clarify a few things before we start here. So I have no idea how to do live stuff or anything on YouTube. So I pre-recorded all of this and uploaded it because I didn't know how to do it live.
And you can see back there, we've already looked at pictures of it, but you can see Josh's urn, one of his wands, and of course Sean.
Also, I knew there was no way in the world I could get through this live, so I just felt it was best to record it, which was good because most things took multiple takes because of crying, obviously. So we got together and we made this earlier and then went ahead and are posting it live now. It hasn't been easy waiting a full month to do Josh's celebration of life. But we felt it was best to do it on either a solstice or an equinox because of Josh's beliefs, and we thought that would be the best time to do it. And so equinox wasn't that far away, so we decided to go ahead and wait. The equinox isn't until Monday at 12:19 p.m., I believe.
And stop it there for a second, but yeah, lots of black and green hearts. It was good to see that. And there was a ton of gifted subscriptions. I think super chats were turned off. Hopefully, somebody will be able to use that, because I saw one guy drop 50 subs and just kept going and going and going and going. And so hopefully it should be like with YouTube, it's normally just auto deposit. So hopefully Clint has access to that, because I'm sure he'll hopefully do something good with it. Pope Healy, welcome. Just found a baby bearded dragon that is injured. Definitely feel some Josh energy. Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, it really sucked. Just some of the stuff said. I paused it in an area that, luckily doesn't have anything, but it does. Yeah.
For the full equinox, but we're within the 24-hour period.
Smith,
so
welcome.
I thought that would still work, and we wanted to do it. We didn't think it'd be good to do it on a Monday during a work day in the middle of the day, so for people to be able to watch. So that's why we waited, and I'm glad we did because it's a day of passage, and it fits well with his beliefs and some of my beliefs as well too. So I think it'd be a great day for him to pass on to the next world.
We'll skip a little bit ahead because he does continue talking for about 3 minutes. And it's like, well, how can you blame the man? It's his, it's his son. So, but people, get a little impatient and start telling him to, move it along, stop making it about you, because, he talked about Reddit. And it's unfortunate, though, that he groups Reddit in with YouTube. And he had a lot to say about, people trolling and how you should, of course, think about Cobra and then, think about the others. And there's just no way to do that, since Cobra was a completely different person than Cyrax, Andy Ditch. These are degenerate, actual people who should be in jail. And Cobra wasn't. Cobra was a weird guy. He said some sicko things occasionally. Probably had some sicko ideas. There was the time where he said it was okay for him to, I think, feel up some Down syndrome girl or something because they were both mentally challenged. But yeah, I always said that, you know, if you opened up a book and wrote down, like, for fact, the things that people did, most of the people we talk about would be in jail if they were, you know, able to prove. But Cobb just was nothing but himself, like Reverend 616 said. And he, you know, he was just Cobra.
Thanks for joining.
All right, let's skip on. I think at first his sister, they didn't have any music because, you know, if I had known he was, damn, I didn't know he, 10 minutes? I thought it was only 3 minutes. But anyways, they said they got rid of all the music out of the video because he mistakenly thought that it would get taken down. And he also mentioned that he did read the messages people sent him on Facebook, and I really wish I had thought, you know, known that. I didn't want to waste my time if he wasn't going to read anything, because that's what he said. He wasn't going to read it. You know, I would have offered to, you know, help a little bit if I could. At least tell him that, you know, it's not going to get taken down, most likely. Sure, it won't be monetized. Occasionally, it'll get blocked in Russia, which seems to be the case for most songs that do get blocked. They only block it in Russia for whatever, you know, I don't know what the reason is, but why they pick those certain songs, I don't know. So it would have been nice to have some music. They did play an actual Cobb song at the very end.
And
by Emma Jean Flora, a fellow outsider who saw the spark.
This is his sister reading the poem that was in the Casper Newcomer.
Could listen to that epic guitar riff in the beginning, but sadly that's copyrighted, so we can't use any music in the video. Ozzy was the first concert I took Josh to, and Josh just fell in love with Ozzy and fell in love with.
And I don't think he ever talked about going to an Ozzy concert. You know, that's something I guess he kept to himself. I could be wrong. He may have talked about going to an Ozzy concert. He did talk about how he was a large guy. I think Cobra had mentioned he was between 5'7" and 6 foot tall. Like, that's a huge gap. So yeah, he was probably 5'10" to 6 foot in reality. Probably 5'11", like most 6 foot people are.
His music and became an instant fan, and then of course over the years just continued to follow Ozzy and love Ozzy and be obsessed with Ozzy, as everybody knows. When Josh was born, it was without a doubt the happiest day of my life. I remember being in the delivery room and seeing him be born, and then holding him for the first time and realizing for the first time in my life what true unconditional love really was. And I couldn't wait to be a dad, and I was so excited. And then Josh had complications, so he ended up in the hospital for a little over a week. And I know it was just a super scary time for us. And that as a parent, you really realize, again, what true love really, really is.
I've never seen anything like that. I've seen incubators before, but anybody really know what that round thing is?
For a few years during Josh's toddler life, it was just Josh and I, and we did everything together. We were inseparable, and we were the dynamic duo, and we used to spend all day watching Disney movies, and then we go to the gymnastics club. I ran gymnastics clubs at the time, and we just hang out all day with the kids in the gymnastics clubs, and we go home and hang out at night. And it was just the two of us until we met Tanis, and Tanis changed our lives forever.
So I guess he had Cobra all to himself pretty much his entire life. I knew his mom, you know, left the picture, but that early she left? I mean, that is messed up. I mean, no matter what is wrong, you don't leave a toddler. I mean, I have no clue. Maybe he talked about it. It might not be something that he did talk about. The round thing is one of those suction bulbs for getting snot out. But no, it seemed almost like it was around the cylinder over his head. When you see the hole where his head was in it. It was just kind of strange that only his head was like sort of protected like that. Josh was 5'9", probably with whatever boots, he's probably, could be pushing, 5'11", maybe even 6 foot with those big, thick soles.
Became Josh's mom, also brought Josh's grandparents and great-grandparents and some more aunts and some more uncles and a lot more cousins, and just made our family a lot bigger and a lot more complete. From the time Josh was little, he was always very unique and different, and we knew at a very young age that he was special needs and was going to need some extra help.
Yeah. Died worth 100. Yeah. Real homies were in the chat last night. There sure was. I mean, there was a lot of, it should have been Cyrax, which, everybody agrees with. But near the end, there was this one guy who just kept spamming. So every 3 comments, you saw this same guy saying it should have been Cyrax. I couldn't comment because I was in the shower, but listening. Entire streams blocked worldwide for music copyright. Seems to go really hard on my channel. Like I said, there are a couple of songs that I played that have been blocked entirely, but it's mostly newer stuff. I think there was a Post Malone song one time that got blocked worldwide. But a lot of them, I listen to some weird shit, so it usually only gets blocked in, I think it was Russia and some other kind of weird country.
And later in life found out that he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. And part of that syndrome, kids with that tend to obsess over things. And if you've ever watched Josh's videos or met Josh or know Josh at all, you know that he had his obsessions, and they were limited. And the common thing with kids with Asperger's is they only know a certain thing, so that's all they talk about. And with Josh, it was Big Ben, clock towers, and bell towers, and it was smoking. He was obsessed with smoking pipes, obsessed with smoking cigarettes. He was...
Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse for abandoning your child. I mean, it's like if you're gonna do that, I don't know if they knew ahead of time that something wasn't right, but there was probably opportunities if she wasn't willing to stick it out. But yeah, it's just fucked.
He was also obsessed with shotguns, obsessed with Model Ts. He was obsessed with king cobras and snakes, and obsessed with magic and the idea of conjuring thunderstorms, and also obsessed with the movie Tombstone.
Yep, Tombstone and conjuring thunderstorms. I don't remember him ever talking about that, but we've all seen him, try to change traffic lights, which his dad talks about as well.
And Josh and I used to run the whole Doc Holliday sketches all the time. Doc Holliday and Ringo, would do that sketch a lot, and Josh loved to quote that movie as well. So as I look back on Josh's life, when he was older, and I started wondering where these obsessions came from, and it all became very clear. As I said, Josh and I used to watch Disney movies all day long, and Big Ben and smoking pipes and smoking cigarettes was all the cartoon of 101 Dalmatians, which was one of his favorites. We used to watch it over and over again. Then we also watched The Fox and the Hound a lot, and The Fox and the Hound were shotguns and also the Model T cars. And
Cowboy Cobra.
Then, of course, Tombstone. But then the Cobras came from Aladdin, and his obsession with King Cobra's Jafar, and Jafar had a Cobra staff.
So there you go. The Cobra came from Aladdin.
And he used that staff to create magic and conjure thunderstorms and become this King Cobra snake who was all powerful. And that's where that came from. So all of Josh's obsessions later in life actually started when he was 3-4 years old and watching Disney movies. And I think that really sums up Josh as a person, because of his obsessions and his inability to really do other things or let go of other things. It was always those handful of things that he was obsessed about.
Uncle Cosplay, welcome. Heretic, good to see you. Uncle Cosplay says, I learned so much about King Cobra. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is so much stuff that it makes sense too. Everything you say, you're like, oh, that's why he did that.
Were really all he was capable of talking about, at least for a prolonged period of time. So I had no idea at the time that those Disney movies would play such an integral part of Josh's entire life. So as Josh continues to grow, I remember the first time he discovered his own religion.
The original ghoul.
So the word Cobraverse is often used in Josh's online world. That's what they call the people who are involved in this world. But it's actually a term that Josh used when he was young, way before any of the YouTube even started. He wrote a story and he shared it with me, and it was this amazing story, and it was about the Cobraverse. And in the Cobraverse, Cobraton was a god, and Cobraton was, of course, a cobra, a king cobra god, and he and his wife created the world and the universe, and they had a son, and they named the son King Cobra. And King Cobra was powerful magic, and he could control the weather, and and that's who he was. And it was this great story. And I said, Josh, this is incredible. And he was pretty young when he wrote it. I think 6th grade maybe. And so I was like, Josh, this is amazing. This is a great story. Are you going to keep writing? And he says, it's not a story, it's true. I said, well, hold on there, buddy. This is not true. This is something you're writing. And he said, no, but it's true. This is a true story. And this is my religion. And I said, well, Josh, buddy, you can't just invent your own religion. And he said, why not? Jesus did. And
I said something in chat somewhere in here, probably tasteless, but, religion is pretend. I said, why shouldn't he be able to make up another one?
That's the way Josh's mind worked. And I'm like, okay, so what about some theological ideas here? What happens when we die? And I started talking about different theology questions with him, and he said, I haven't figured that out yet. I said, okay, so you recognize that you're figuring it out as you go, right? Yep. And then you're writing down your ideas, correct? Yep. So then, therefore, it is not real. It's made up because it's coming out of your mind. Nope, it's real. And he was 100% convinced that it was real, and the Cobra, and he was King Cobra, and he had these powers. And I said, Josh, he fully believed he can control the weather. And I said, Josh, you can't control the weather, buddy. And I'll never forget the first time we were in North Dakota, and he goes out in the yard, and he's standing there with his hands up in the air to the sky, and he's conjuring his first thunderstorm. And he came back in, and it's just a beautiful day. And I said, well, and he goes, I just conjured a thunderstorm. I said, all right. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, we had a thunderstorm, and Josh came in. He said, see, I told you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you wait long enough, it'll come true. But yeah, his dad is great. There's all that talk from before about how everything was his dad's fault. He didn't do enough for him. But he really goes into how just hard-headed Cobra could be, and how he would go the opposite way of something, even if he didn't want to, just because someone wanted him to do something a certain way or do something at all, and he would just do the exact opposite.
And that's kind of how Josh's magic worked, and his thunderstorm conjuring worked. And he still does it to this day, or he did before he died. He would conjure thunderstorms, and whenever it would happen, he would take the credit for that. And then stoplights, he could control stoplights as well. And we'd pull up at a stoplight, and he'd pull out his one, and he'd look all serious at it. And
I don't think he was ashamed of him. You've talked about in the video how, if he showed himself with a picture of Cobra, it just got more and more trolling on his end. All this shit delivered to his front door on his house, and this is Clint. It's not Cobra's. It just trickles over into him. So any mention of Cobra is gonna end up getting trolled.
And he'd point his wand at it, and if it didn't change, he'd start shaking his wand. If it didn't change, he'd shake it a little harder. And when it finally changed, he would nod with pure satisfaction and put his wand back in his pocket. And I'd sometimes tease him about it and say, Josh, you realize that you could just watch the other light, right, and see when it's going to change, and then your timing would be perfect. Shut up, dude. I changed that light. I can control that light. I did that. And I said, all right, buddy. So Josh, along with that, Josh kind of lived in his own world. He daydreamed all the time. And he had audio hallucinations quite a bit. He would hear people say things that they didn't say, which started a lot of conversations with him and I, because we'd be together and we'd walk into a store and he'd get very upset. And I'd say, hey, what's going on? And it would be, well, that lady just said something horrible to me. And he'd make up something that she said to him. I said, Josh, that didn't happen, buddy. I'm standing right here with you. And she didn't say that. Yes, she did. So in his mind, those hallucinations were very real.
So yeah, he's having audio hallucinations, and it could explain all of the conversations he would have with the trolls. I know he did have a lot of them with the trolls, text messaging, but all of those times he would like, trolls be like this and trolls be like that, which fit everything, he was saying. I think sometimes maybe he was imagining some of the things, the specific things.
And he'd hear it all the time. And there's usually people being mean to him. Once in a while, there was good things. I remember one day he said his bike, Josh's bike. Oh my gosh, he loved that bike, and that was the coolest bike in the world. And he would sit on that bike on a street corner downtown and daydream and smoke a pipe. And one time he says, yeah, these two hot goth girls drove by. And I heard the one girl say to the other girl, wow, check out that sexy hot goth guy right in
the sexy hot goth guy, which explains, him thinking all these people are saying, ooh, that goth guy smells so good. And him being hard-headed probably explains why we never saw the bike after a while. Something happened to it. He couldn't fix it himself and wouldn't let anyone help him.
That really kick-ass bike. That guy is so cool. And again, these were very real things to Josh, and they were very real in his head. And it was this daydreaming was actually the reason he couldn't get a driver's license, because he would just drift off and he would go into kind of another world. It was very scary with him just out on his bike, to be honest with you. And because he would often just start daydreaming, and he had driver's ed, and the driver's ed teacher said he drove fine, but whenever they'd stop at a stoplight or a stop sign, he would just kind of disappear into another world, and sometimes it would take a while for him to come back out to reality. So that was one of the reasons that he didn't drive. Along with the auditory hallucinations and the daydreaming, Josh would also have just spectacular conversations with himself. And he'd quite often get pretty animated. And there'd be several times we'd be riding around in the car, and he'd be quiet, and he'd start having a conversation with himself, and he'd be getting louder and louder and more animated. And I'd finally stop, and I'd say, hey, Josh. And he had completely forgotten I was there, completely forgotten where he was, and he'd just get stiff as a board. And then he'd kind of look at me out of the corner of his eye like, what was I doing? And I'll go, who are you talking to? And he'd say, myself. And
is that Sean brand new? Or is that when he remember he sent Sean away one time to have him like touched up? Can't remember. I think that must be it, because this is the second apartment, and he had Sean in the original apartment, right?
I'd say, are you having a good conversation? Yeah. So,
yeah,
that was always made for some interesting dialogue with Luke? Josh. With Asperger's, Josh.
Yeah, you can't control someone when they're an adult and they're basically on their own. I mean, unless he wants to make, running his life his 100% goal, you just can't.
Also needed the same routine.
The repair return.
He needed the same routine every
so.
single day, all the time, which is one of the reasons traveling was so hard on Josh, because he had to have his routine interrupted, and he never did very well with that.
And of course, Clint knew. He knew his son. He knew how he was like, and I'm sure there's probably tons of times he wanted to tell him that he shouldn't do something a certain way, but he has to come up with a way to get that through to him without him wanting to be combative and just go completely against the grain and do the exact opposite.
If you look at Josh's glasses and these old pictures of him when he was little, Josh as an adult picked out almost the exact same pair of glasses, and I didn't understand it when we were getting the glasses, but he just had to have that exact pair. They didn't fit him real well, but he didn't care. It's got to be this pair. It's got to be this pair. And I didn't understand why he was just so insistent on this pair of glasses until I got home and I saw the picture of us together hangs above my dresser. And when I saw that, I went, wait a second, that's the exact same pair of glasses he had when he was 2. And that alone really just...
Stream keeps buffering. Why give the trolls on ammo on Reddit? Lure him away, have him arrested. Just take the boy home. Give the trolls ammo on Reddit. I don't think he was on Reddit, was he? Clint? Is the stream buffering for anyone else? It seems like we're got a pretty good bit rate.
Just sums up who Josh was with his obsessions, which I always found very interesting. From the time he was 2, he's at the age of 34, he still hadn't let that go. A big part of Josh's life was sadly his harassment. I don't know why, but for some reason, people just flocked to him to harass him.
And he talks about, people doing it in real life, really before the trolling, just people would come up and I guess he was just, he lived in Casper, which was, not a modern metropolis. Trolls are DDoSing me, or DDoSing Pelican.
Even as an adult, and he made himself kind of scary looking, and I think he did that as a defense mechanism, hoping that people would leave him alone. But he was also a big guy. Whenever we got in public, not even exaggerating, we were at a grocery store and little kids would harass him. They'd just walk up to him and start teasing him. It was so strange. And everywhere we went, this happened. And it was that way his whole life, from the time he was a small child. When he was in 5th grade, the harassment became so bad that his teacher asked me to come in and talk to the class to explain to them that Josh was a little different and who he was, and try to get them to be nice to him. The bus driver, our driveway was the bus stop for a while there, and the bus driver stopped and got out of the bus and he said, "These kids will not leave him alone." And it started with 1 kid, and then pretty soon it was 3 kids, and now literally there's like 10, 15 kids on that bus who just harass him the entire bus trip. And he said, "I can't control it because I'm trying to ride the bus, but I wanted to make you aware." And I actually had to go to the principal and tell the principal either he was going to ride that bus or I was, because this was going to stop. And the principal finally rode the bus and got things under control. But the reason I shared that story is because that was Josh's life. It was.
I'm sure a lot of it was just like online. People were messing with him, and he wasn't going to just, take it. He's going to fight back and screw around with them too, and probably made it a lot worse during school.
Just so horrible, and it was all the time. It just never ended. As an adult, we were one of the last times we flew with Josh. We were at the airport, which is always very stressful for Josh anyway. And he comes out of the bathroom, and there's a guy talking to him. And I thought it must have been a fan or somebody that recognized him, so I gave him space. And then as I walked up toward the end, I realized the guy was being a jerk. And when I walked up, he walked off. And I asked Josh what that was about. And apparently the guy just randomly started attacking Josh about what he was wearing. Just harassing him and being extremely rude about the clothes he had on. And it's just, as a parent, to watch your child go through that all day, every day of his life and you can't stop it and you can't control it, is absolutely heartbreaking. You never feel so alone and so helpless in that situation. The number of times I had to go to a park and get on a group of kids and get Josh's bike back because they stole his bike from him. Things like that. It was just so frustrating.
And of course, Clint is human too. He's gonna make mistakes. He's not gonna do everything right. As a parent, I know how he feels in a lot of ways with the kids not listening and wanting to do the exact opposite. And just, it happens when they're teenagers. It happens when they're 8 years old, that they can be so defiant and so just maddening.
Josh bounded into my life when he was 4 years old. I met him and Clint, and we bonded. Josh especially bonded to my dog, Ellen, a big black Labrador. And
I was an asshole here. I posted Ellen who, of course. But this is his stepmom, which basically might as well just be his mom. If the other mother just bolted, this is his mom.
He told Clint that Clint could keep me as long as he could keep Ellen. And it was the beginning for us. And what I want to talk about with Josh, that there are 2 things that I don't know if everybody knows about him, that I want to emphasize, and that is how amazing Josh was with animals and how much he loved them and how they loved him. I've never met an animal that didn't calm when Josh was near. and didn't respond to him or want to meet him. And I never met an animal that he didn't want to care for. Also, Josh's kindness, because that gets lost sometimes. And Josh was a fundamentally kind person at heart. And you can especially see that in his relationships with his extended family. For animals, it started with big dog, big black Labrador, Ellen. And then we had another
Puff
Labrador
Puff.
named Chocolate that we got not too long after.
Damn, look how tall Clint is. Shit. What if she ran away from scary ass Clint? You never know. You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
We got together and Josh loved them. He enjoyed riding horses and getting to see cats at my parents' house, because we didn't have horses or cats for us, but they had them. And he was natural. Again, he would take care of spiders. For a while, when we were in North Dakota, he had an entire family of spiders that he took.
See how big his arms are? Yeah, and somewhere in here I made a stupid comment about him letting rabid stray animals into his house, like the bog witch.
Took care of, and we were not allowed to do anything that would harm the spiders. He
I almost forgot, but I have this on Top Chat. You see how fast that shit's going. Ooh.
one time was bitten by a squirrel that had been hit by a car, and Josh tried to rescue it. It had been run over, and he tried to pick it up, and then the poor thing bit Josh, and Josh did not want us to get mad at that squirrel because it wasn't the squirrel's fault. Two of other animals that Josh got when we were in North Dakota, a dog named Obi, and then another dog named Chance. And Chance and Josh had a special bond. Chance we adopted from the Humane Society, and Chance was kind of a misfit. We loved him, but he was definitely very unique, and Josh had this bond with Chance.
Yeah, this is my wrong.
In fact,
Chance died.
When Chance got injured, Josh sat with me. This was several years later. He sat with me and Chance in the vet's office, and he held Chance's paw as Chance passed, because he wasn't going to let Chance be alone. And then later, he put a Cobracraft sticker on Chance's ashes that we still have.
Chance of your litter. His trolls live sad and miserable lives. Yeah, I do feel bad for his dad too. You know, if you go to his Facebook, even before he died, there was no pictures of Cobra. But does that really mean he was ashamed of or hated his son? It just meant he just really didn't want to get trolled. I mean, if you go to my personal Facebook page, I don't have any pictures of my oldest daughter. I mean, I love my oldest daughter. I talk to her quite often. But, you know, she's in her 30s. I'm not going to have, like, all kinds of baby pictures and stuff. It's not what I like. I don't share stuff like that anyways.
A story with Obi that sticks out to me. Josh came running inside one day and told me that Obi had begun to mature.
You may have to cut me in half and count the rings. No, I am 50.
He was really coming of age, and I wasn't quite sure what to think about this, so I went out to check on Obi. Well, it turns out Obi was stung by a bee, and his face and head were about twice their normal size. Josh was concerned about that. Another animal story I wanted to share. We had a neighbor in California who had a pretty aggressive dog, more aggressive than I'd ever encountered before, except with Josh. And you could walk by the house and the dog would go crazy until they saw Josh. And then
But if Shanny's titty warts is 57, how old is Shanny? Or is she born with the warts? Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's a great screen name. Welcome.
It would
And the
just
lamb.
calm.
Welcome.
If there is such thing as an animal whisperer for all animals, that was Josh. Josh, of course, loved snakes. Some of the best pictures I ever got of Josh were
That's true, Ken. Very, very true.
when he got to have a boa constrictor.
I mean, if you knew the real me and go on there and you click my name, there's going to be pictures, but it's not, I didn't post them. It's just me getting tagged in my wife's photos. And so she's a little bit younger than I am. And so she's from a different generation. And she does like to post every goddamn thing. She likes to, you know, it's the reason we pay so much money to Google, because she will never delete a single picture. 50 million pictures taken at every damn event. They never go anywhere. Some of them go on Facebook, but that's about it. It's just the HPV.
He got to hold them. It meant a lot to him. And he enjoyed that. He loved reptiles. He liked going to visit a reptile gardens. He loved Puff, his bearded dragon, and was so proud of Puff. And when Puff escaped, it was devastating for Josh.
Puma, welcome.
Puff escaped for a very Josh reason. Josh wanted him to have fresh air. And yeah, no, Puff took advantage of that. When it comes to Josh's kindness, you see this in stories of him with animals, also with his grandparents and great-grandparents. Josh was lucky in that all of his grandparents and all but one of his great-grandparents were around for most of his life. And he loved to talk to them. You know, sometimes kids have to, parents push the kids to talk to grandparents, but Josh legitimately enjoyed.
A cursed curator. Tad late. That's all right. Doing good, thank you. Welcome to the stream. Saw the celebration was nice, very touching and sad. Don't buy the Puff story. It's like if he had a cat or a dog, I would have felt more comfortable, but I'm not wasn't his caretaker. A lizard seems like something a little more difficult to handle. If their conditions aren't right, you could not only kill the animal or at least shorten its life. I have no clue what happened to that lizard, though. I think he said he said it was outside somewhere. I don't know. Stella H, welcome. R.I.P. Cobes, you will be missed. Yes, you will. Absolutely.
Talking to his grandparents and his great-grandparents and playing games and visiting them. We had wonderful summers sometimes with family members and going swimming and having a barbecue and
running away.
You really
I don't think
saw
so either.
His kindness. He could volunteer sometimes at a senior center, and people responded to him because of that.
I could see it getting out if he left the door cracked open or something, and just like if there was a hole in this wall. I don't know if he had like anger issues that way where he's punching the walls and the lizard gets in there, and it could have gotten so lost inside the walls of that apartment. And I don't know. I just don't want to think about it.
That the last material gift Josh gave me also shows his kindness.
He streamed on the
and
celebration.
His thoughtfulness. He went to great lengths to get me a signed picture of Princess Leia, signed by Carrie Fisher herself, and had it framed. It's up in our house, and
I'm jealous of the Carrie Fisher picture. That would be badass.
Always will be. It was so kind of him to do that. I love you, Josh.
Of course, turtles. Yeah, turtles. I mean, they can live forever. I mean, not mistaken, but the turtles who were in the Rocky movie, I believe, are still alive, or maybe I made that up in my own head. I don't know.
I'll never forget when Josh decided to go goth. He said, "I'm goth." And I said, "Josh, you're not goth, man." He goes, "I'm goth. Shut up. You can't tell me what I am." And I said, "Josh, buddy, you're like happy all the time, and you're always smiling, and you love to make people laugh." One of Josh's biggest traits was comedy. Josh just loved to make people laugh, and he would do it all the time. From the time he was very, very little, bubblegum wrapper jokes. You know, we'd get him books sometimes for birthdays and that, so that he could, for his silly dad type jokes. And we always teased Josh as he got older. I'd always say, "Josh, there's jokes, and then there's dad jokes, and then there's Josh jokes." And Josh would always laugh, and he loved that one. And I said, "So Josh, you're always making people laugh. That's like, you're like the opposite of goth, buddy." He goes, "Nope, I'm goth." And I said, "All right, man, you're goth." So then everything went black.
Got that Darth Maul shirt on there. Trying to look at see what the hell that said. I think it's just numbers. I don't know. It's Christmas though. I see the tree in the back, so I don't know what that is. Play in traffic. Welcome.
And all of his clothes had to become black at that point. But his favorite color,
if I didn't say so.
As a small child, his favorite color was actually pink. When he was a little boy and was in gymnastics and coming to the gym with me all the time, we had our gym shirts, and he would always get the pink ones. He loved the pink. But then as he got older, I think, he of course got teased for that because he was a boy and liked pink. So then he went to green, and so then everything had to be green.
And somewhere in here, I did put, real men wear pink, which all racing games I've ever played, I always have to have my car being pink.
And those of you who know Josh, if you've ever been in his place, he paints everything green. If it wasn't green and black to begin with, it got painted green and black. And it was just one of his obsessions, and everything had to be that way. And then there's Josh's drink combos and food hacks. So Josh has been doing drink combos for as long as I can remember.
Not only the 90s, but, late 80s. Everybody had those goddamn Converse All-Stars, the really long ones that would go up to your kneecaps, and you fold them down, and they would be like a pastel blue, and then when you folded it down, that part was pink, or vice versa.
We've got pictures of him very small with a drink in his hand that looks like nothing that's on the table to drink, because he always found other things to put in his drink. From the time he was just tiny, whenever he'd pour a drink of something, he'd look for something else to put in it. And I know one of my mom's favorite and worst memories was when Josh decided to spruce up her coffee a little bit, and he was looking for something to add to the coffee to make it taste better and do a drink combo. And the only thing close by was dish soap. And so he put dish soap in my mom's coffee.
IPA.
She was, didn't.
I would get one out, but my glass is not here yet, which is this glass right here. It should be here tomorrow, so I don't have to drink out of a coffee cup or some other silly thing. Actually drink the right way. When Clint said the trolls made porn of the two, yeah, I can see it happening. I mean, we've all done it with Cyrax. I mean, let me word that one a little differently. We've all seen that happen with Cyrax and Sally. I didn't want to say doing it with Cyrax.
Enjoyed that cup of coffee very much. And the food hacks as well. He was constantly creating food hacks, and they were so awful. The things he would put together and eat and then sit there and eat them, it was so gross. And I always tried to get him to do an entire YouTube channel, and always told him, "Josh, you could be rich if you ever did an entire YouTube channel of nothing but food hacks, and no swearing, no smoking, no drinking, and just keep it clean and monetize it, and people will watch that because it's hard to look away."
And yeah, it was hard. He did put a lot of focus on the trolls, but it's almost like it had to be, because it was a huge part of his life, bad parts and good parts. I mean, trolls are the ones who probably caused the dry spell and ended the dry spell, and Like I said, it seems like everybody he got in contact with, he assumed was a troll. It was like, unless you just completely kissed his ass, you were a troll.
As he makes these gross things and then eats them very grossly. And they're all over his hands, all over his face, and he's slurping. I've never met a human being who could slurp food the way Josh did. And but it was
so thin there.
It was his signature thing. But nope, I'm good, Dad. I said, but Josh, you could literally make some money off YouTube. A lot of people think that Josh made a lot of money on YouTube because he had so many followers, but he didn't. And I said,
I disagree with that. I don't think his dad knows exactly what he was getting. I don't know if he has access to all those accounts, but he was getting a lot of money one way or the other, but he was wasting it. He was wasting it all on DoorDash.
You could, there'd be one way to do it.
Or DoorDash.
And then, of course, his wand business could have been just absolutely huge. It was successful on Josh's level for sure, but he had over 100,000 people that wanted wands, but he's always talking about winning the lottery. He's going to win the lottery and build that clock tower dream house. And I kept telling him, Josh, you've already won the lottery because you've built this thing on YouTube over years and years of work, and so now just make wands and sell it to all those people, and you don't need to win a lottery. You can afford to build your dream house. And of course, he'd always give his standard response, "I'm good, Dad."
Yeah, it was. Always thought the exact same thing. If he would just focus and make a bunch of wands, he could make so much damn money doing that. I always wondered to myself, what did Cobra do all day whenever he wasn't live? Like, was he just sitting there drinking, or was he watching like TV? I've heard him watch like some of the shows that he likes, and he was like just loud as hell, cracking up. It was during one of Jessica's streams.
I'm good, Dad. But Josh, you can make a bunch of money.
Never had
I'm
a
good,
now.
Dad.
First word that comes to mind when I think of Josh is difficult. He was the most stubborn person on the planet. But behind that stubbornness was a person full of love, creativity, personality, spunk, and a truly gentle spirit.
I believe this is his sister, the one who did the intro and read the poem.
When I ask you to think of Josh, I'm sure you will think of cobras, magic wands, Ozzy Osbourne, guitars, Stummy Sean, or maybe even Puff, his bearded dragon.
Or a bog witch.
I think of these things too.
Am I getting delivered a Happy Meal from McDonald's for $35 a waste?
I also think of our childhood, watching Cartoon Network together.
He should have followed DSP's, route and just tried to eat it on screen and then make people pay him before he ate it. End up spending $1,500 on $50 worth of food, and could have been really profitable.
Together, from Courage the Cowardly Dog to Teen Titans to Dexter's Laboratory, he did an amazing Dexter impression. I think of sitting in our basement playing Guitar Hero and him whooping my ass at it, but he would always give me a chance.
I like Guitar
Or even the
Hero.
skateboarding game he would play on PlayStation, where yet again he would try to teach me cool tricks.
That's why I wonder why he never played. Like, if he liked like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I'm assuming was that. Maybe it was the original Skate. I don't know. But it's like, why did he never play video games? He had a PlayStation. We know Couch Chris did most of the gaming, but and yeah, he probably would not have been able to figure out how to stream the game the correct way, but he could have put the camera up. That's how DSP did it back in his old days. He would just point the camera at the screen.
I think of staying up until 3 a.m. watching Ghost Hunters marathons and his desire to scare me all the time and being successful at it. We even went ghost hunting in our own basements multiple times. I think of his love for animals, how gentle, patient, and caring he was with them. I remember when a squirrel fell out of a tree in our front yard, and he tried to put it back on a branch. It bit him, and he had to go to the hospital. But he would have done it again if it meant helping an animal. Or a rescue dog, Chance, who's obnoxious in his own ways. But Josh could get through to him. He talked about him until the day he died. And I'm sorry that he could never meet
And there is that clip. It's in the lolcow landfill, I think the last volume, where I put the clip of him saying, I lost my boy Chance, and, insinuating that he was talking about Cyrax, because there was a period of time where Cyrax supposedly died, and they made an AI Cyrax, and so people were using that clip as a King Cobra reacts to Cyrax's death.
His nephew Louis, who is currently playing with a toy so obnoxiously that he'll probably make it into this video. I think of thunderstorms and his belief that he could conjure them. There have been many storms since he passed, and I would like to think it's him telling us he's okay. That he's at peace now. I'm honestly not sure if I'll ever be able to not think of him when it storms. Josh left an everlasting impact on the world. While he was notorious online, and definitely had some radical opinions, I ask you to join me in remembering the artistic, creative, kind, gentle, ghost-loving, incredible Dexter impersonator, guitar hero champ.
You have to work, Shanny. Well, if you're leaving, I appreciate you stopping by.
Cobra-loving magician, Ozzy Osbourne's biggest fan, most insane.
Oh no, I get it. Okay, you never get to play your games because you have to work. Okay, I couldn't read between the lines there.
Chef, if you could even call it that. Storm conjuring, crosswalk changing, musician. That was Josh. It will be hard to find a soul as unique as his. But Josh will live on in many different ways. 34 is officially the coolest age. There's comfort in knowing that he'll be watching every time it storms, or when an animal is saved, or even every time Ozzy Osbourne is played. I just know he's rocking with Ozzy, with Puff on his shoulder, an epic pipe hanging from his mouth, and all of our dogs watching from the crowd.
Well, it might have came from that, or it might have came from the other thing. We're talking about an origin video that he's remembering. I don't know when the game you're talking about came out. I know when Aladdin came out, or I can find out when Aladdin came out. And not to say it wasn't a little bit of both.
Please give Obi a kiss for me. I love you so much, Josh.
That was not my cat.
And I'm sorry I didn't get to say it enough while you were here. You were a good big brother. And we'll miss you always.
All right, that's the end of that. But yeah, I have so many games that I want to play, just don't have the time. And just end up just going back for a quick game of Once Human, which, for someone who doesn't have time to play games, I've spent 1,300 hours in that game, or get into Skate again. But yeah, I've there's so many games I want to play. I just don't have the time to get into them like I used to. Once Human being the exception, I guess. But, Shanny's titty warts never had a nail in my life, thank God. Yes, definitely thank God. Some of us have had nails in their life. Or someone very, very similar. My ex-wife was that. She didn't abandon her child, but I had to get custody just because she wasn't able to take care of our daughter. And so she did try to fight to get it back, but it never happened. I mean, she had, she was able to see her on the weekends, and like, we had special arrangements where she got to see her more than just the weekend dad stuff or weekend mom stuff. But it needed to be my responsibility to take care of my daughter and make sure. And she would pretend that she could do all of this. But, one thing would happen. She would get sick, and it was her weekend. Her being my daughter would get sick, and it was the ex-wife's weekend. And she wouldn't want to take care of a sick kid. So it was then back to me. And then once she moved away and didn't have regular access, it was always every couple of months was supposed to see her, and then something would come up, and I would be the one who would have to, break the news. And so it sucks having someone like that as a, person involved with you and having a kid with. Sometimes you don't know. They're able to hide it. They're able to hide it very well. Neo Voodoo Tech was there last night. It was cool. We all stayed positive, saw very few trolls. Very true. I mean, there was definitely some stuff in there, but the overwhelming amount was good. I mean, I can't really see anything bad where I've paused the video and looked over, and I don't see anything bad. And it was that way for the most part the entire time. Like during the beginning, I was really looking at the chat more and more, just trying to focus on stuff being said, but it was going so fast you just couldn't. And so, but for the most part, there was 10,000 people watching approximately, lots of gifted memberships, and mostly good stuff to say about Josh and the whole video in general. Seeing his glasses, urn, and hat, yeah. Once dated a nympho, thought it would be great. Oof. Been kind of sad since Josh's memorial. Was anything out of the ordinary found out with regards to what took him? Nothing was mentioned there at all. We could, let me see, Natrona. I checked earlier today, but just in case, yeah, still August 22nd is the last. So the official cause of death was a heart attack. But at 34, you shouldn't have a heart attack. And so I'm sure the toxicology report, when it comes out, will tell a little bit more.
Whenever we went anywhere in public, Josh would hold the door for whoever was behind him, which sometimes scared people because Josh, again, kind of had a scary appearance sometimes. And he'd stop and hold the door for the person behind them. And quite often, people paid no attention, would just say thank you. Other times they'd look a little sheepish, but they'd go through and smile and say thanks. But that's who Josh was. He was very kind. Anybody that ever came to his house, we had to get on him about this all the time because random people would show up at his house because of his YouTube, and he just let them in.
Can a cat bite kill you a year later? I don't think so, no. I think if the cat had rabies, it could definitely kill you, but that's a whole different set of, symptoms. And that happens probably within like a month or so. I think from start to finish. If you don't get treated, you're pretty much guaranteed to die.
Hey, come on in.
But not surprising he had a heart attack. I mean, it isn't surprising considering his lifestyle, but I would think even doing the worst possible stuff to your body, you still wouldn't die at 34. I wouldn't think, but everyone is different. He wasn't like morbidly obese. So you'd think his body could take a little bit more of that. But I guess we're going to find out. Everything that people said it could have been is something that would not be surprising. If it was liver failure, there's an explanation for that. If it was pancreatitis or, something with appendicitis or heart attack. said, he did all these bad things to his body. It was going to catch up with him. I just didn't think it would be that quickly.
Have a beer. And if you're one of those people that went to his house, you know that. And all the people I've ever seen that did go to his house said that. He was just so kind. He was just so nice. And that's who Josh was. He was very kind and very nice. And I remember when he got his first apartment, he kept getting in trouble for letting homeless people.
Now, this I had not a problem with, but I think maybe Clint might not have known what happened with the homeless people in his house, because he was dating that girl Amy, spelled AMI, and she had like brought a bunch of people into his house. Because there's a video out there I have in the playlist where he talked about dating her, and then the next day he broke up with her, and I guess she somehow made it back into his life. Then there's videos of her being arrested, and then finally getting rid of all the people in his house, including the cat, I guess, that she had left there.
Stay with him, and because it's a violation of his lease, and the landlord said,
boy, welcome.
That one time she came in, there was 10 different people, I think she said, the one day.
Yes, Amy spelled with an I, just screams problems. Yep, or a stripper
sleeping on his floor. And, kept having to have talks with him. And she said, Clint, he's not getting it. Can you please talk to him? And I sat him down and I talked to him and said, bud, you can't do this or you're going to get kicked out of your apartment. And he said, but Dad, it's cold outside. They don't have anywhere to go. And that's who he was as a human. That was the deepest part of who he was.
Absolutely.
Was that loving, caring person. So when Josh started to become famous, he'd always say, you don't realize how famous I am, Dad. And he was right. Everywhere we went, we ran into fans everywhere. And it was crazy. The last few times we traveled, and Josh didn't travel with us a lot as he got older, because as he got older, it got harder. Even just going on a Thanksgiving weekend, he'd break down, because it was just that any change in his daily routine was just so hard for him. And he had his daily routine, and it had to be the same every day. He got up.
And if it wasn't the same, he probably needed to drink. And that was a big problem with, I guess being in public and being with family, just being shit-faced.
He did X, Y, and Z in that order. And oh my gosh, that kid, when he'd take a shower, he'd stand in the shower for at least an hour until he ran out of hot water and do comedy routines. And so when I'm picking him up for appointments, it was always so frustrating, because I learned I had to tell him that I was picking him up at least an hour earlier than I needed to pick him up, because Josh had no concept of time, no concept of time or numbers. They just didn't make any sense to him. Time and numbers didn't. Money, he had no concept of it. $5, $500, they were the same. It was just a 5, and that really meant nothing to him. Same with time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 hours didn't mean anything. It was just.
I hope it. I hope it wasn't the seeds. Just because it's so bad for his parents and family to know that someone went out of their way to end him like that. But my God, if it is, I hope she gets everything she deserves for that shit.
It was so abstract to him, and he really, really struggled with those things. And he, when I'd pick him up, Josh, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. Be ready. I show up. Oh, hey, Dad. I said, you ready? No, I'm just getting in the shower.
Yeah,
Dude, you don't have time to take a shower. We got to go now. But whenever you pressure Josh, especially with hurrying, he would totally break down. And then it was be what he would call, not me, he would call it one of my autistic fits. And because he would just have a breakdown, and then I'd have to calm him down and have to get him back on track. So I learned the hard way many, many, many years ago not to push him in terms of time, but it was always so hard, especially when we're running late. So I just started telling him, if I had to pick him up at 2:30, I'd tell him 1:30, and I'd show up at his house an hour early, knowing that he was about to get in the shower and do a 1-hour comedy routine as I sat in his living room listening to him. And he cracked himself up in his comedy routines quite a bit, which was always great. So that
she is an evil piece of human trash, absolutely. And how can a guy put up with that? Couldn't take the pain for that long. That probably has a lot to do with, the alcoholism too. Knowing pretty much anything can be fixed. If there's something that hurts, then there's probably a way to fix it the correct way. But it's a lot easier just to booze it up. And I think that's what he did.
That's what he did, and that routine was tough. And we got out of their routine, it was really, really hard on him. So he didn't travel with us a lot. But the last couple times we traveled, every single gas station we stopped at, every single restaurant, people would recognize him. And they'd come up and want to do selfies with him, which he, of course, always did. And he'd never say anything. He would just turn around after doing a selfie with somebody, and he'd look at me with a big old shit-eating grin on his face, and he'd give me his horns up signs with his hands and bob his head up and down as if to say, told you. And even in the airport, the last time we flew, several people recognized him in the airport. You could see him pointing and talking, and then they'd finally come over and ask him if they could take a picture. And Josh always would, of course, because he just loved people and he loved being famous. That was like his biggest thing, which leads me to Josh's biggest passion, which was music. And from the time Josh was a toddler, he loved music. He'd go up and he'd climb up on grandma's piano bench and start playing the piano, banging on it, of course. He's a toddler. But even the banging wasn't like what I'd seen most toddlers do when they'd bang. It actually didn't, it sounded okay. And we'd let him do it. And then he got into guitars, and he had a harp, tried violin. And he just a real passion for music and loved music. But Josh had a serious learning disorder. And learning for him was really, really, really hard. So he would get very frustrated.
Well, yeah, the hard liquor that he would drink, I mean, it was so diluted that, always had 5 different non-alcoholic things in it.
Very easily, which is also very common with the with him as a person.
Now, that's the time he did the cover of Mama, I'm Coming Home. I mean, maybe it was because the music was in the background, but it was actually pretty good. But you got to admit, better than Cyrax's music.
And the type of autism he had. And so learning
lots
was
of sugar in
such
those
a frustrating thing for him. And he was smart enough to know that he struggled with it. And so that, I think, made it even harder.
And I'm sure his dad and all the people in chat would try to tell him to brush his teeth. And if someone like that, they're going to do the exact opposite.
Because he knows he's smart enough to understand this, but he doesn't. And then he would just get so hard on himself. I've never met a human being who was more hard on himself than Josh was.
Now, an alcoholic is DSP. Go watch some of his streams where he drinks some of this 99 proof stuff straight. Doesn't even flinch.
It was a constant thing of telling him, Josh, lighten up on yourself, man. Give yourself a break.
Sharpening
quit.
my knives.
And he would try, along with that, he'd try so hard to push people away all the time, too. And he was more.
What kind of knife? I have global knives. I love global knives.
More of a defense mechanism, I think. If I can push you away from me, then you can't hurt me. Or if I'm the one leading the hurt, then you can't hurt me. Which is so sad to watch. And he did it his whole life. And that's one of the reasons he and I were so close, because he tried over and over to push me away as well. And there's no way I was going anywhere.
So here's where he gets into it and talk about how his dad, or he completely blocked his dad from every form of networking, including his phone. And so you have to go to his house and sneak in because it was a private gated apartment complex.
And he'd push and push and push.
Sharpen his chainsaw.
And he'd be out of my life for a couple days, and then he'd come back and I'm so sorry, Dad. I thank you for never giving up on me type of stuff. Which, of course, I'm never going to give up on him. But
now my global knives are the only knives I won't sharpen. I don't want to screw them up. I need to take them somewhere and have them done. All the rest of them, though, yeah, I'll just use, whatever. I mean, if I get right down to it, I have bastard files that I could use. I use those to sharpen my machete back when I would actually use it.
Anyways, back to his love for music. So from the time he was little, he loved music, but again, he had a hard time learning. So when he put him in music lessons, and he had a guitar teacher who's a friend, I won't mention his name because I don't want him to get targeted, but he was like this cool high school kid in the town we lived in who was an epic guitar player, and they had a band, and the band was known by everybody in town, and they played all the time, and these guys were just awesome. And it became Josh's dream at that point. He was going to be a rock star.
Leather.
And that was his dream. And
I do have a straight razor that came with a leather, whatever they call those, sharpener. But yeah, I've seen some of those videos, those hand forged knives, some crazy shit. Especially was it Damascus, I think it's called. That's some good shit.
I remember this guitar teacher. He's just a really cool guy. We're still friends today, and he just couldn't.
Strope.
He's like, Josh just couldn't learn.
Squirrel, thank you.
And Josh would get so frustrated. And so he had a really hard time, but this guy was so patient with Josh and so kind and always just really tried to help him. And he did a lot of good for Josh, even though Josh really struggled with learning just basic music. But Josh just kind of like making his own sounds. And he had an ear for it, so he could usually hear something and repeat it at least.
Need to do it yourself. I know, but the Japanese, there's like a certain, like a degree of angle you're supposed to use. And when you tell me that, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do that. Where if they don't say that, you know, I can use just a damn sharpening one of those sticks, the metal ones that are made for sharpening.
At least recognizably. And so that's kind of what he liked to do with his music, and it's what he did with his music. And as with everything in life with Josh, he just did his own thing. And he was who he was, and that's what he did.
The one with the handle.
But his goal is to be.
I mean, it's not like what I consider a bastard file, which is, you know, flat. These are like the rounded ones, the ones that come in the little cheap little knife sets. It's probably still just called a file, but it's the ones that are supposedly made for kitchen knives.
A rock star, and I remember, you know, when he was little, we've always talked in our family, I don't care what it is you want to be, you can be it. Whatever you want to do in life, go do it, and don't let anything stop you. You know, never give up. Chase your dreams, chase your passions. And Josh wanted to be a rock star, so I'm like, all right, buddy, let's do this thing. And I, you know, talked to him about what that path was. You know, how to become a rock star. What do you got to do? And he didn't want to do any of that. And I'd be like, well, Josh, if you want to be a rock star, you're going to have to do this, you know, kind of follow the steps here. And as usual with Josh, he would just do his own thing. So, nope, I'm doing it my way. I'm doing it my way. Thank you to Deathbed Tapes for publishing Josh.
129 Preston, welcome. You'll get there, else your knives will sharpen to your natural holding angle. And of course, there's also the can opener, which I haven't done that in years. I don't trust that. And it'll sharpen a knife, I'm sure. Maybe I would put a cheap one in there. But I have one of those ones that you put in your hand and it's got like a guard, and you can sharpen it that way. Like I said, I'm still not touching my global knives. Those are just too expensive for me to screw up.
He made his life dream come true. Because of you, he's a legitimate rock star. He's recorded, and you'll never know what that did for him. How amazing that was for him, and how cool it made him feel. You know, because he was legit. He was a recorded rock star, and that's nothing could ever take that away from him. No amount of harassment, no amount of bullying, no amount of tormenting could take away the fact that he produced all those albums. And he was such a thing of pride for him. And believe it or not, Josh did not have a lot of pride for himself. Josh was very, very hard on himself, as I mentioned earlier. So it was really amazing as his dad to get to see him feel pride. So that's Josh's music. He's a bona fide rock star now. Josh was not perfect by any means. Of course, nobody is. God knows I'm not. And Josh was quite literally one of the most stubborn human beings I've ever met in my life. And he had a defiant disorder that was insanely strong. Quite often I would just look at him and say, Josh, the sky's blue, just to start an argument, because it didn't seem to matter what was said to him. He was going to argue with it, and he was going to fight it, and he was going to go the other direction. But then the little turd was also smart enough, then when you try to use reverse psychology on him, he'd recognize it in a heartbeat, and then just call you out on it and run with it the other direction and just frustrate you to the no ends. It was like a superpower he had to be stubborn and argue with anything and refuse to let anybody help him in his online world, along with all of the tormentors. There were a lot of people who legitimately tried to help him, deathbed tapes being one of them. And I think it's Exhumed Images, if I have that right. For...
Yeah, Exhumed Images. He's been in chat before. He made his T-shirts.
With his T-shirts and stuff. But that was tough. Josh would not let people help.
He made the one about Now, which she got all pissed off about.
Help him. I tried so hard to help him with his YouTube channel. I have a lot of video editing experience and photography, and I wanted to help him. And nope, this is mine, which I totally respected. He needed to do this without me. This needed to be his thing. And without help from his dad, which I got. But he wouldn't accept help from anybody. He always had to do everything his own way. And he was so damn stubborn. When the horseradish story always kills me. When he was in 6th grade, and I was making a sandwich and a horseradish, and I say, Josh, want to have some horseradish? And he said, yeah, and I got some on a spoon. And he went to bite it, and I said, whoa, don't, do not.
The horseradish story. Oh, that's so gross. I had a similar one where my daughter wanted sour cream because she thought it was ice cream. Having tacos or whatever. She wouldn't take no for an answer. I gave her the spoon full of sour cream. I mean, it's not as nasty as horseradish, but still didn't have a good result.
Put that in your mouth. Take just a little bit. This stuff's really hot. That will hurt you. Literally hurt you. And he's just looking at me with that stubborn look. And I said, Josh, don't do it. And I know the look. And I'm like, don't do it, man. And he shoved that whole spoonful of horseradish in his mouth and just lost it. I mean, blowing snot everywhere. Tears out of his eyes. Literally on the floor.
Well, I mean, it's nothing wrong with that. It's like, if that's your thing, it's like my guns are clean. But I still take them apart and clean them again, and oil them again, and then dry them all off so they're not so oily that they can't be held. It's just sometimes it's therapeutic to do shit like that over and over again.
Hollering because of the pain, and I'm like, dude, I told you. Which brings me to Josh's learning curve. It's so interesting because Josh had an incredible memory, except for learning. So Harry Potter, when our kids, we read when they were young, we read bedtime stories to our kids every night. And I remember when Harry Potter came out and Tanis heard about it, and she's like, oh, I'm going to get that for Josh. I think he'd love it. And Josh, so she got it. But of course, when she says, Josh, you're going to love this, he immediately said, no, I'm not. And she said, trust me, you're going to love this. Nope, I'm going to hate it. And I'm like, And so Tanis said, well, I'm going to read it. And Josh goes, well, I'm not going to listen. And Tess said, fine, I'm going to read this for bedtime story. You can choose to plug your ears if you'd like, but I'm reading it. And sat down and started reading it. And Josh, of course, had his ears plugged. And she kept reading and read. And pretty soon his ears were unplugged. And then when she stopped reading, he said, hey, wait, can we keep going?
Now, I don't use this very often. I know my oil is real oil, but sometimes I do use these, which are Odysee all-in-one firearm wipes. Like, oh, wrong camera, shit. And so I don't know if this is synthetic or not. But yeah, my actual gun oil, though, not silicone.
And from that point on, he was a huge Harry Potter fan, as we all were. And as he got older and grew out of bedtime stories, as the books, continued to come out, he started reading his own books. And I will credit Harry Potter for helping him learn to read, because that was a huge motivator for him to learn to read, because he really loved reading Harry Potter. Harry Potter trivia, our whole family loves Harry Potter, so we do a lot of stuff with Harry Potter, and we have Harry Potter trivia games. And it's not really a game because all of us know pretty much all the answers.
Contains severely... What? Contains severely hydrotreated light naphthalate distillate and butyl cellulose. Severely. That's weird.
Answers. But on game night, Josh was always in and out of game night. Sometimes he'd come, sometimes he wouldn't. But he always, some of the games he struggled with, so it made him feel stupid, so he wouldn't want to play, which I totally get. But that one he would play, but he wouldn't play. I'll just watch. All right, man, you sure? Yep, I'll just watch. And we'd have teams.
Coconut oil would be good. Smell good too. Although I like the smell of gun oil.
And if there was an answer nobody could get, and it would happen sometimes, and he'd sit there and he'd get his little Josh chuckle going, and I say, what? and he'd give us the answer, and he'd sit, and he knew all of it. He could remember all of it. But when it came to learning music or learning a math problem,
Let me look if I see what I
we
have.
could teach him the process, and he would learn it, but the next day he'd forget it. And we'd teach it to him again, and he'd forget it, and teach it to him again and forget it. And so the way his brain functioned was really weird like that, and I don't understand it, and the doctors didn't understand either on why he could have such a great memory, but certain things he just really struggled with learning and remembering. And the horseradish, long walk here, was one of those stories. Just last year, I think it was Easter, and he was over for Easter supper, and we're having prime rib, and had horseradish, and he put this gigantic blob of horseradish on this tiny piece of meat, and he was getting ready to eat it. And I said, Josh, don't.
So he's going to eat damn, that shit again. So I don't know about this one. I have been using this recently. It's by Ultima Lube, which this sounds like this stream is going the wrong way. Wilson Combat. Chick-fil-A use peanut oil. I use peanut oil. Unless it's incredibly expensive, and I'll just buy canola.
Don't do it. And he gave me that look, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And I'm like, Josh, I'm serious, man. Do not eat that.
Lucas,
that is hot. Nope.
I'll definitely check it out. This is red, though. I don't know if you can tell or not. It is definitely a bright red color. But I will definitely look out for that.
Wham, it goes in his mouth. Bam, the sinuses empty. He's coughing and raging and bellowing on the floor, and tears running down his face.
Frog lube.
So, but that was Josh.
I think it might be
in a nutshell. His stuff.
It might be close to the natural color or whatever they're using. Not sure.
Stubbornness, and when he first moved out of the house, he became so independent, and he was so tired of me trying to parent him, so he just blocked me.
No, not
it was
on,
the most frustrating thing in the world.
No, not canola on a gun. No, I was talking about with cooking. Blue oil.
He'd block me on social media. He'd block my phone so I couldn't call him, and then I'd have to go to his house. And then he lived in his apartment, and he lived in a controlled apartment, so you couldn't get in. So I'd have to go around the back, through the alley, and down the side of the building and knock on his window just to see Josh, because he had me blocked everywhere. And then I'd knock on his window, and he comes in and go, oh, hey, Dad, what's up? As if he doesn't have me blocked on everything. I'm like, dude, you blocked me on everything. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I'm like, come on, man, enough.
Just imagine your child does that, and probably did it more than one time.
Block me. So he goes, well, you're always trying to tell me what to do. I'm like, Josh, I'm your parent. I'm supposed to help you navigate life, and I don't care. You're always bossing me around. And a lot of that was more than parenting. Of course, as a parent, Josh had chosen a path that I didn't picture for him, and I did in his earlier life. Those earlier late teen, early 20 years, tried to mold him differently.
Yeah, same with.
I remember about the third.
I would think the same with coconut as well.
Time he blocked me on everything, and I came to the realization that if I'm going to have him in my life, I'm going to have to accept who he is. That didn't just mean accept him and just, okay, you can be whatever, but I don't approve of it. That meant I had to fully accept who he was and go even one step further, and I had to be proud of who he was. And so I remember this is a huge realization for me and a huge turning point in his later life, because Josh and I had always been extremely close his entire life. But then there was like 2 years where it was really rough, because it was just nonstop fighting because he didn't like my parenting and I didn't like the choices he was making.
Yeah, we're just getting greased up.
Very common for that age
Peanut
with
butter.
most parents and kids that age. But with Josh's extreme, the way he thought about things and the way everything became very extreme in his mind, it was always kind of at a next level with Josh. So those 2 years were rough, and I realized that, no, I'm not going to lose Josh, and I need to just, I had these conversations with myself. All right, Dad, that's enough. You need to be proud of your boy and accept him for who he is. And up to that point, I'd always kept thinking, I think, it's a phase, or he's going to grow out of this, or he's going to become okay. But that isn't how it works. And not only that, but he doesn't need to change. He can just be him. And I need to accept that. And when I did, it was a huge moment for me. And I had to go trek down the alley and down the side of the building and knock on his window because he had me blocked. And went in, we had a heartfelt talk. And I remember when I told him I was proud of him and who he was. And I was very relieved for myself because I knew it was true and I believed it. I wasn't just saying it. And then from that point on, Josh and I were again very, very close and have been right up until he died, which I'm thankful for. Not that he died, of course. I'm thankful that we were close. And those 2 years were just kind of left behind, and we became the dynamic duo again.
Hey, Jenny, welcome. Good to see you.
So that was Josh. Josh's stubbornness. Josh was literally the most unique human being I've ever met. He truly marched to the beat of his own drum and did so unapologetically, despite nonstop judgment, harassment, and the abuse he lived with. I sincerely wish that I could have the courage to be so true to myself without fear of judgment. And I told him this every day
Rather beat off the women
that I
beat
saw
women.
him. Josh, you are the strongest person I know. I don't know another human being who could deal with the harassment you deal with on a daily basis and be okay in any way, shape, or form. The nonstop abuse and to just still have a smile on your face of any kind was amazing to me. And he was such a strong person. And I think as a parent of a child with special needs, and I think most parents with children with special needs would say the same thing, I learned way more from Josh than I ever taught him. Because I learned about life, and I learned about people, and I learned about acceptance, and I learned about tolerance, and I learned about patience, and I learned about all of this because I had such a unique, wonderful, beautiful boy. Whenever my family and friends would ask me, "How's Josh?" I'd say, "He's Josh. He's just Josh." Because that was the best way to describe Josh. He's just Josh.
And there's one thing, he doesn't know, I don't think, and I don't think I really know. It's just what I assume, that probably the people who trolled him like the most in the negative way, if there's a positive way, I don't know. But the ones who were just wanting bad stuff to happen, the kind that would try to call cops on him, those people sometimes had their own issues, their own probably form of autism. The ones who were just out to ruin someone's life. There's people who did it to have fun and not be damaging. But yeah, there's something to be said for mental illness on both sides of the troll community, I guess.
And the family and friends who knew Josh would always say, "Yep, I get that." I'd like to raise a glass to Josh. A drink combo if you got it. And Josh, this is over. I'll go pour one out for you, buddy. I'm going to do a toast to you right now, as we all are. Josh, you accomplished something in life that many people never will. You made a difference. You accomplished something that most people want in life but won't achieve. You left your mark on the world, and you're going to be remembered. I wish you could see just how much you were loved and cared about, Josh. But deep down, I honestly think that you knew that most people were rooting for you and not against you, buddy. Josh, I'm so proud to be your dad.
Sorry to pause it right there, but Enoch, yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier, the audio hallucinations. I was thinking that he was almost either exaggerating the chats that he would have with trolls, because some of them were text messages, I'm sure a lot of bad stuff did come through, but some of the ones he would talk about, you know, the trolls would say this, and they would be like this, and they want me to do this, and like I don't think they really said that. I think sometimes it would be made up a little bit.
And I'm gonna miss you more than you can ever know. To Josh, long live Gothic King Cobra. I love you, bud.
And so this is Cobra's song, which said it's better than Cyrax. Look at those pythons.
Say goodbye to love. Say goodbye to life.
So you guys know that Joey's probably just trolling you guys. Just how it is.
Time. Say goodbye to all the good memories. Time and
Hey, Helen, and welcome, Enoch.
Time slipping away like a cigarette in the ashtray. Burning out and fading away. Oh, say goodbye to love. Say goodbye to life. Say goodbye to all the good times. Yeah, say goodbye. Memories fade.
Yeah, post it. Yeah. If it doesn't come through, sometimes chats or sometimes links don't come through for some reason. But if you post just the watch $V equals and the rest of it, and just leave the youtube.com part off, that should come through.
Storm passing over.
Thank you.
Hearts lit on the road of life like shattered glass. Life's a cool joke. Cold, cold rain wash away my pain. Alcohol to drown myself until tomorrow, until I'm somebody else. Say goodbye to this life. Say goodbye to this life. Say goodbye to all the good times. Watching my memories fade into existence. Never say goodbye. Never say goodbye. Time goes on. Say goodbye to all the good times. Say goodbye to love. Say goodbye to life. Never say.
This is weird. I take that little bit of the link that I just copied, and it's not working. It's going to be easy enough just to if I can make it work here. So we take that, replace it with this, which has always worked in the past. Look at this shit. Brings you to a channel called Watch with no videos. 16.8K subscribers. Weird. Anyways, let's see if we can. Cobra's Cantina. Let's see. That's the right one. That's not it. Remaster. All right, there it is right there. We will take a look at this from Clamp's Cemetery. Here it is from, I guess it's all the same.
Hoy en esta cantina me tomaré licor para el dolor y las heridas. Hoy en esta cantina me quedaré escuchando JJ y a Sabina.
Taking shots of tequila at the Cobra Cantina. Quench your thirst for adventure at the Cobra's Cantina. Sipping with Satan at the Cobra's Cantina. The tastiest drink combos you've ever seen. Sipping at the Cobra's Cantina. At the Cobra's Cantina. Looking for a woman to touch your wiener, and she's looking for a man too. Toss up tequila at the Cobra's Cantina. Tastiest drink combos you ever seen. At the Cobra's Cantina. Thirstiest people you've ever seen. Enjoy your liquor and booze and cut loose. At the Cobra's Cantina. Thirsty quenching the best drink combos you've ever seen. At the Cobra's Cantina. Drink some beer and cut loose of your fear at the Cobra's Cantina and relax with the Cobra's Cantina. Caressing your glass, looking for a piece of ass at the Cobra's Cantina. Forget about your troubles at the Cobra's Cantina. At the Cobra's Cantina.
And yeah, Danny Brown mentioning him is a pretty big deal too. He talked about Cobra every once in a while, but only wanting him to kick Cyrax's ass.
Prettiest cocktail waitresses you've ever seen at the Cobra's Cantina. Forget about your troubles at the Cobra's Cantina. Taking shots of tequila at the Cobra's Cantina. The tastiest drinks you've ever seen at the Cobra's Cantina. For drinking at the Cobra's Cantina. Leaning on a wall at the Cobra's Cantina. Drinking shots of whiskey and tequila at the Cobra's Cantina. Tastiest drink combos you ever seen at the Cobra's Cantina. Quench your thirst for adventure. Cutest cocktail waitresses you ever seen at the Cobra's Cantina. Fuck the bullshit of the day, and you know what I mean when I say let's have a drink at the Cobra's Cantina. Tastiest drinks you ever seen. Where the prices are fair and the weather's just fine. At the Cobra's Cantina. Have a drink and hang out with your friends, cause they seen ya at the Cobra's Cantina. We're drinking at the Cobra's Cantina. Sexiest cocktail waitresses you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like doesn't matter what the word is. It rhymes with cantina, as long as you just add a after it.
Treat 'em nicely,
All the meats and
don't be a
cheese.
mean asshole at the
He would kick Cyrax's lame ass.
Cobra's Cantina. Try your
Cocktail
luck
waitress.
at the Cobra's Cantina. Quench your thirst with the tastiest drinks you've ever seen.
Y después, cuando esté borracho, te diré mil cosas que te van a doler.
All right. Now, I have World Skipper backstage right now. And, let's see. All right, let me see what we got here. Unmute. And, all right. So if you want to say something, World Skipper, it says that you're muted. Okay, now it's not.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I did. Okay, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you. Welcome. This is World Skipper. He's one of our mods. He wanted to talk about Cobra a little bit. Wanted to do it during panel night. He was up on panel, but it really didn't get around to talking about Cobra that night. And I figured this would probably be a better night since it's all about Cobra. So let me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me up again.
Oh, no problem.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. I know it was a tough night for a lot of people to watch that yesterday. It's kind of a weird week for a lot of people, and this overshadowed a little bit Asmongold's dad dying as well. So
Yeah.
you know, a couple of people of note have been going recently, but yeah, I had a couple things that have always kind of sat a little weird with me about Josh, and I don't know if talking about this really means anything to anybody, but I thought maybe bouncing a couple things off you might be an interesting
Yeah.
topic.
Well, it doesn't matter if it means anything to
A
anybody,
bit about
you know,
this and,
as long as it means something to you, you know, that's all that really matters. It's
yeah, and I'm interested to hear what Chet has to say as well.
Yeah.
What I should probably preface this with is that what I was going to say before this came up, and I'm glad that Clint brought this up during the stream yesterday, was not to dehumanize Cobra. I kind of see Cobra as a character, you know,
Mhm.
and then Josh was a person. Okay, so I understand that Cobra, that character, was for me pretty goddamn frustrating.
Yeah.
When I used to watch him, he was very, very funny, but I used to want to just reach to the screen and choke him sometimes because of the stuff he would do. Something he had said tonight that I caught the second time that maybe I missed the first was that he had a habit of kind of pushing people away as a defense.
Yeah.
But he also used to invite people into his world. You know, that was him being online, was bringing as many people into his living room as he could. At the same time, your opinion really wasn't that welcome. It would, it, you know, you would offer him advice on maybe how to dress, how to cook. The things he was doing, they weren't really that well received.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit difficult. Those two things didn't really balance out that well. But anyway, the two things that I wanted to say about Josh were, one of them was the animal thing, and the other one was about his alcohol use. The animal thing is probably the lesser of the two, so I'll leave that for after. But there wasn't really a discussion during the. Yeah, and Andrew's saying something that that the character was Josh. I guess what I mean by that is I don't want to forget that what I learned yesterday, and something I wasn't really aware of until I heard Clint talking about him, was that I think that, and I don't mean this in a bad way, Josh was more, let me say, disabled than I was aware.
Yeah.
And if if this video that Clint made about Josh was part of his channel, maybe I would have seen him in a different way and I wouldn't have been as frustrated. If I was aware that he kind of had these things about him that he carried over from being 5 and 10 years old, if I had kind of understood that about him, I don't think I would have been as frustrated. I would have just understood, okay, this is a holdover from when he was a child and from his family and a number of other things. I don't think I would have been as frustrated about it because I would have understood.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. I agree.
um,
I probably wouldn't have. I mean, I didn't really make a whole lot of content on Cobra. And most of the times when I did, it was just sort of laughing, but not trying to, do anything bad to him, not wishing the worst for him. And I might not have even done that, but and then again, I can't really say. But it definitely explained a
yeah,
lot of stuff of his actions and his reactions to certain things. It definitely everything just sort of
yeah,
made everything fit.
yeah. That just put it in a new light that I didn't. I don't know Josh. He was not a friend of mine. I don't live in Casper, so
Yeah.
this just put a new context on it that I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware that that's kind of what he was grappling with that whole time. So knowing that now, I think I probably would have backed off a lot just of my personal feelings about him,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't have held him to such a standard, if I was aware of all that.
Yeah.
I think that there was a missed opportunity a bit, and I'm not going to come down on Clint too much because it's I have people in my family that are pretty vicious alcoholics,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that there's not any real winning play with that. You can't make people do anything, and you can't. There's no magic pill you can give somebody to make addiction stop.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna beat him up over that, but I think there was maybe a missed opportunity there. If somebody can critique a celebration of life, I know that's pretty harsh, but um, to talk about the addiction portion of Josh, um, he didn't really discuss the alcohol portion of his
Mm-hmm.
life and kind of the toll that took on him, um, kind of what that did to him and what that cost him, and maybe that could have been a cautionary tale to other people, or to maybe have them reach out to their family if they need them. I didn't really hear him touch on that, unless that was something that came up to you.
No.
He,
I think he
unless I missed that.
think he avoided it. I think he avoided it because
Yeah,
it's something that I'm sure, spoke with Josh about. But knowing now, especially how Josh really was and how stubborn he could be, that if he tried to like push too hard, he could have made it worse. He would have drank, himself probably to death long before that. And as far as like people, getting on Clint about for, not loving his son, not caring about him, whatever. Everything you guys or anybody something bad saying about Clint, he's probably thinking about himself. He's probably taking a lot of shit on, a lot of blame. You say he didn't do enough, he probably is saying the exact same thing. He knows that it's not true. In the end, he knows he couldn't have done something. He could have made things worse by trying too hard. But still, you're going to second guess everything that you've done, and he's going to blame himself probably for the rest of his life that he could have done something. That he could have made it better. He could have
yeah.
stopped it, but also in the back of his mind, he knows that he wouldn't be able to.
I mean, he must, since I know he was aware of his content. I don't know how much you watched it.
Yeah,
I was kind of waiting for a time when he said, addiction is hard, and it could be hard on a family, and Josh struggled with it. Even just a passing comment.
yeah,
I don't remember hearing that in the video yesterday, and that was like an hour by hour, almost minute by minute part of Josh's life as long as I had seen him.
yeah,
Whether it was caffeine, smoking, alcohol, anything that he was into, he was really into. He
yeah.
didn't have a lot of just casual passing interests in things. He was, and I think that it was to his detriment. Is the only reason why I bring it up,
Oh
is
yeah.
because I think that it lowered his quality of life to a really substantial amount. Obviously, we saw his speech slow down a lot. I don't think he had a lot of functional friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wouldn't care if I didn't care about him.
Yeah.
You don't want to see somebody go through that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't
No
want what
one.
Josh went
Yeah.
through for somebody in my family.
Yeah. No one liked watching how he was in the last days. I mean, it was bad. It was sad to watch how
Yeah.
slow he had gotten, and and that was the big thing about him in the very early days of how high functioning he did seem, how quickly he was able to talk. Sure, he mixed his words up more than someone who wasn't autistic, but he seemed to be thinking pretty quickly. But yeah, not near the end. I mean, the last couple of videos, he seemed a little bit more clear than before. But if you go back like a week or 2 weeks, it was it was very sad seeing how like just slow and lethargic he'd become. And you never know
Yeah,
what all
when
he
you go
was
back to the
doing.
videos of him at 20, how much his speech has slowed down over the years.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we're both older than Josh, and it wasn't normal what he was going through, and I
Yeah.
think it was not a normal evolution of his psyche. I think it was something his body was feeling as an effect of probably alcohol. But again, off camera, I don't know what he was putting into himself, because we know that he was using Duster and things. Maybe not habitually, but I don't know what he was willing to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's what was so
it was
scary
pretty bad.
about those
It was pretty
seeds.
bad.
It's like, why would you send him seeds if he could possibly, do something with them? And but
Yeah,
also back to
just the
the
thought that he might is
yeah,
scary.
but to the point you were making earlier, about being so hyper focused on certain things, and that is very true. And yeah, if he had been hyper focused on, one thing or the other, hyper focused on specialty popcorn, yeah, no big deal. But when you're hyper focused
Mhm.
on alcohol, that's really tragic just because of how much damage it can do and so quickly. I mean, he was hyper
And we
focused
and
on
we've seen
on food, but
we've
that's a little bit better. It's a lot better than alcohol.
so Seizure had brought this up in his videos, that when he is fixated on something, um, he likes to customize things to a really serious degree. If
Mm-hmm.
he's ordering a pizza, he won't just get a pepperoni pizza.
That's
He has
right.
to customize it, 10 different ways.
Yeah.
With his drinks and the drink combo thing, he doesn't just want to have a Pepsi. He wants a Pepsi with 5 different things in it. He doesn't just want, it's everything. It's his hamburger. He doesn't just have a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Even when he was working at Wendy's, he's like, well, I got a special one because I work here. They put 5 different things on there that don't come on it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you about it. That's his personality, and it's harmless when it's in some aspects, but it's dangerous when it's in others.
Yeah. Especially when you're taking
Moderation was not something that
multiple
was.
forms of alcohol and putting them all together, then it can go bad
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick. Maybe that's why he stopped Duster, because you can't do anything with Duster. It's not like you can,
Okay,
you
yeah,
can't spruce
yeah,
it up.
maybe.
You can't just add stuff to it. But he
Yeah, yeah.
purposely, made a point to say he was doing Duster too much, and then said he quit, which I don't remember hearing any Duster later in life. Like we did with Now. Definitely heard her doing it.
Yeah, she really, in a way, she was fixating on Cobra. She really wanted to emulate and take on his characteristics and try to copy his look and his channel and
Yeah.
things.
And so
She's
even if he
she's a real
wasn't doing
barnacle.
Duster at that time, doing it around her, Chat was talking about it. And so she reads Chat. She's like, I guess what Cobra does, so I'm going to do that too. Maybe. It's just speculating again. I don't really know if she definitely sounded like she was doing Duster, but why she was, I don't know. If she saw him do it and wanted to join in, or hell, maybe that was just one of her things too. I mean, she's
Yeah, I'm
quite
not as
odd.
knowledgeable about her. I don't know what her streams are up to. Every time I've tried to watch them, they're just hours of black
Yeah. It's boring.
video with music playing, and then her just yapping on about things I can't make heads or tails of. So she's not somebody. She's very few people are entertaining in the way Josh was.
Yeah.
Um, Something I was going to talk to you about the other day was, there are some people that are entertaining because of their antics, and there's some people that are entertaining because of the community they cultivate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna pay you a little lip service right now. You're one of the people that adds to the entertainment value of a lot of people because of the content you make, right? So being here in this channel adds to the value of otherwise boring, um, adds to the value of otherwise boring videos.
Yeah. I
But some
appreciate
people
that.
on their own can kind of stand on their own 2 feet. Cyrax is painfully boring in a lot
Yeah.
of his videos. You cannot sit through one of his concerts. They are the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
They fucking suck. Okay. On the other hand, there's times when he is losing his goddamn mind, and that's pretty funny. I'll sit through that and I'll watch it. And it's good. It stands on its own feet. Josh is hit and miss, but for the most part, he was pretty funny when he would get excited about something. Watching him open a can of beans for 20 minutes. And at the end, it looked like he set off a M80, it just beans were everywhere. It was blown open. It was funny. And I felt like I wasn't really laughing at him as much as I was enjoying watching him go through the process. And it was fun. I liked him, so I'm to his credit, he was an entertaining guy and he did have some comedic timing. And when he wasn't being ill intent, when he wasn't, because he has said some really, really hellacious things over the years about other people. When he wasn't being vicious about things, I did like him.
Yeah.
So he had the capacity to be an entertaining person. But yeah, I think that maybe if I had seen this thing that Clint put up yesterday earlier, it would have probably disarmed a lot of my frustrations with him. The bus story about having the principal intervene sort of to disarm his bullies. I felt like this was almost a similar thing. Having Clint step in and say, "Hey, you guys don't really know what Josh is going through. You don't really know the history of him." In a way, might have disarmed a lot of people in the way they felt. At least if they felt the way I did.
Yeah. But sadly, though, I'm sure a lot of people would feel that way and probably wouldn't have maybe said a few things that they said. But then there's the other side that would probably go even farther knowing that, which is really, really tough to think that there are people out there like that would, do the things that they do now. But, if given knowledge, they would use it for very nefarious purposes.
Yeah. The story about his wheels falling off his car, that kind of threw me a little bit.
That's crazy.
I didn't know what to make of that.
Yeah, could you just imagine if that happened to Cyrax? Immediately, he would try to make that into a video. He would make a 2-hour video about how the trolls are trying to kill him.
Yeah, I know Clint's kind of a funny character, but Clint's not ill intent.
Yeah.
Why would anybody target him for that level of? I mean, that's like cutting somebody's brake lines. I just don't get it. So,
yeah. That's what I was saying.
One.
The ones who are like on Reddit, they take it to that level. I think they have a mental problem sometimes too. They get so focused on someone that they really become a part of their life and are so critical of everything that they do, and then they're critical of the things that their parents do, and it's almost like how some content creators will, what do they call it when you try to keep all the content for yourself? And it's like
gatekeeping, or
gatekeeping. Yeah, they try to gatekeep the content, but when you're trying to do that with people who are knowing him in real life and are trying to keep them away from him, it's crazy. That could be complete bullshit. Maybe there aren't people out there, but there is. There's definitely some people out there in these communities that have, I don't know, similar mental problems, but they got mental problems. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, there's probably something wrong with all of us in a little bit of ways, but there's levels to this shit. There's definitely levels to this shit. There's levels to being a sociopath. I'm sure. I mean, there's some who have good intentions and some who don't.
I'll eat crow right now. As he was telling stories about, I've heard anecdotes about people going over. There were fans, I believe. Now, I'm sorry, I don't remember who was telling this story, but it was people that had gone over to visit Josh, and they were waiting in the parking lot for Josh to come out to their car. I don't know if this was one of the documentaries, because I'll have to admit I haven't watched them, but they were waiting for Josh to come out. Like, hey, we're in the parking lot, come out and see us.
Yeah.
And I think they said they ended up sitting out there for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, that was the big documentary. Yeah, that was the real big one.
Yeah, and then it turns out that like Josh just comes wandering out hours.
Yeah.
And when I heard that anecdote, my initial reaction is, if, let's say I go to visit you and you did that to me, I would think, what the fuck? Like, I'm sitting out here for 2 hours. What are you doing? That would piss me off, right?
Yeah.
now that I understand what I learned yesterday about Josh, it completely changes that.
Yeah.
I could picture him not understanding that when somebody's outside, you have to get up and get ready, and then standing in the shower for an hour rehearsing his monologue. That adds another level of, okay, I get what he's dealing with. He really probably needed somebody living with him. I think that would have done a lot for him. Living on his own, I think, was probably not a net gain for him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that freedom did him any favors. But again, I'm kind of passing judgment on somebody else, so that's just my opinion. I'm just some guy that didn't know him.
Yeah. And Playing Traffic
Um,
says that then again, Clint, dumbass, maybe he got new tires and the shit shop got them from
yeah,
didn't. Now that has
yeah,
happened. That has happened to one of our work trucks. We had a tire change and they didn't put the shit on right, and
yeah. It
the
happened to me
tire
once
it
too. Yeah,
came off and rolled into someone's house, and so shit
yeah,
like that does happen, and
yeah.
so it's definitely a
It was the
possibility.
trolls.
But yeah, to then just blame the trolls, but who knows if there was more to it, if there was messages sent or threats sent, and then that happened. But
Oh, and the roadkill thing. People
y-
leaving roadkill on
yeah,
his doorstep. That was another. He mentioned that along with it. So
yeah.
yeah, who knows?
Hey, Buzz.
I don't believe that Clint's a liar, but I do believe that his son grappled with what was really going on around him.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of his stories you could dismiss out of pocket because he would admit to you, I'm having auditory stations. And his dad would reiterate that point.
Yeah,
Like, this person didn't say this. And he would tell stories, and you could tell that this didn't happen.
yeah. And like
It's just
Andrew
another.
says that he believed the not understanding time very well contributed to his unemployment, and that was
Yep.
probably a big deal. I'm sure when he was employed, I bet Clint probably had to call him like several times a day before he went to work, just to make sure that he was on task and going to be able to make it there on time. And
Yeah, I'm sure having a cell phone around helped him a lot to constantly have some way to reach him and have alarms going off, things like that.
yeah, and after a while,
Which too bad he broke them so often.
and I'm sure after a while, he probably knew he should be doing more for his son, but how could you? And you can't make,
Yeah,
your son your entire life.
yeah,
If
I
that,
can't blame
it's
him for
yeah.
that.
Like I said,
It's so much work.
it is, it
And
is.
like I said, I have somebody around me that's has addiction problems. You can't fix. I get that,
Yeah,
but what's the term? Monday morning quarterbacking. Like,
yeah,
looking back, of course, I wish that he had been able to keep Josh maybe closer to him. You don't want to have your 34-year-old son living at your house,
you're
but
right.
just that Josh had somebody around him. I know he had threatened him with the putting him in an autistic home,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that term was, but
Yeah, the group
just
homes.
to somebody to say, hey, you can't stay drunk all the time.
Yeah,
You can't have these things. You're going to burn your house. I'm really surprised in the first apartment he never lit the place on fire
yeah.
with aerosols going off, with alcohol soaking the carpet,
He did start a
blowtorching
fire. He
coals in
did
his
start a
living
fire
room.
that one time. I
The
think he was.
potato thing or something
Yeah,
else.
I think it was a potato thing, and then I guess Clint bought him a stovetop little grill, so, because there was gas in that apartment, in that first apartment. And so
Well,
I think that was a close call. It could have gone really bad, and it could have always gone really bad. But he, I guess, was able to either set alarms, or maybe he was just so focused on food, and it was something that he wanted to focus on. And that's probably the key. Stuff that he wants to do, he can focus on.
mhm.
And squirrels have to die somewhere. Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah,
The whole roadkill thing, it's like, yeah, did someone leave roadkill, or did something just die? Now, if it happens like
yeah, yeah,
5 times in a row, then yeah, it's going to be trolls. But like if I go
yeah. Was it a
outside,
dead mouse or was it a pile of possums? There's a
exactly.
there's a difference.
And like, did it happen more than once? It's like if it happened one time, you might be trying to pin it on the trolls, which is, a slippery slope to get on. Start blaming the trolls for everything. Uh,
Um, I made a few notes as you were talking and the thing was going off. One of them was he uh he did seem to boast quite a bit about things, which always kind of again, that's not a favorable trait. And if I was looking for a pal, you know,
Hmm.
somebody who was boastful about things, um, he would never admit to you that a burger or a burrito was full of bugs and 3 days old and tasted horrible. You know,
Yeah.
very seldom, like the pizza, the fiery fish pizza, would he tell you that something was inedible,
Yeah.
unpalatable. The what was the egg with the grape, the ghetto grape egg? Like, there's so few things that he made that he would admit to you were gross.
Yeah.
Usually it was, this music rules, this drink combo is great, this meat
Hmm.
came out fantastic, but you could tell it was just swill. It was horrible.
Yeah.
That was pretty off-putting. But then, you know, when I heard Clint talking about him, I thought maybe that was his way of letting people know that he was able to do things. Especially when Clint was talking about him being hard on himself. Maybe he was just letting people know, like, hey, I was able to make
Yeah. And then say
improvement.
how good it was, and no one can prove him
Yeah,
wrong. It's like
yeah.
you can't prove that this doesn't taste good because you're not me. You don't have it right in front of you.
You can't take a bite. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
maybe he was just kind of reaffirming that, like, hey, I did this. And in that context, again, I'm gonna back away off of my criticisms of him and just say, like, okay, you know, maybe Josh is just doing the best he can for
Yeah.
himself. I don't, like I said, I never had really ill intent for the guy, but he was pretty frustrating to me. And this did cast a new light on maybe what he was.
Yeah.
Um, the only other thing I wanted to talk about the other day that I didn't get a chance to, I don't want to take up your whole show here. Um, I wonder what his kind of let me at least focus on Clint, because I don't know anything about his family. How much of his content Clint really consumed, if he
Hmm.
knew Josh's stories or the things he did,
Yeah.
um, as
I
much as
I doubt
somebody like you.
I doubt hardly any. I think he purposely stayed away from it because it would trigger a response by him that wouldn't go well with his relationship with Josh, because he
Mhm.
would see what he was doing, he would see what he was saying, and he would want to, chime in and tell him that, this is going to happen if you say these things, and uh, you're going to get this reaction. You really shouldn't be, putting those things together like that. You're looking horrible. You need to brush your teeth. It would just probably get into a whole line of things that would end up getting him blocked and banned again, and probably easier on his own mental health at that time. He's like, well, I don't want to watch his stuff. He's not going to listen to me anyways. So stick my head in the
Yeah,
sand and pretend it's not happening, which I'm sure a lot of that went through his mind during Cobra's life.
yeah, that's tough. I kind of get that. He's going to have to strike some balance between what's. I know that he would intervene if there was an issue of danger, but
Yeah.
um, this is just leading back to the other point that it's kind of a sticking point with me personally. I've always thought that you were an animal lover. I know how you are with Charlie, and I've seen you with the cats and things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a real soft spot for animals, and I always have. And there's something that when I see somebody, let's say, victimizing or hurting an animal, it elicits a kind of violent response,
Yeah.
in a way that it's like seeing somebody hit a child. There's something about victimizing something that's helpless that I really can't abide. That really is a very upsetting to me on some basic level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something that people like to say about others is that they are animal lovers. They love animals. Josh loved dogs. Josh loved cats.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I don't want to speak ill of Josh, and I don't want to say anything bad about him out of pocket. But I think I would like to give some fair criticism. Um, that I think that Josh was a dangerous person for animals to be around,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that he was like that for a long time. I think there's been a number of examples, and I don't know that Clint was really aware of this. We have him bird incident, you know, where he killed a bird
Mm-hmm.
at Wendy's, and decided to talk about it. I'm not sure what he was really conveying to people. I guess it was just a event in his life, but that he didn't, he found something to need help, and he
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it. So the solution there was, well, I may as well just kill it.
Yeah.
Um, that's a weird line of reasoning that I couldn't really.
And I think he
The thing with
blew smoke in
yeah,
the
yeah,
lizard's face, I think, is another one.
that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to touch on. He had this thing that he would do sometimes where he would speak as though he could verbalize the inner monologue of animals,
Yeah.
and they wanted what he wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted
They
some
wanted some chocolate, which is a bad thing to think.
yes.
When it's a cat or a dog, especially.
Yeah, and I'm glad that some people in chat here are aware of the bird thing. I don't want to get into too many gory details, but
Yeah.
if you know what he did, it's not a pleasant.
Yeah.
Um, the thing with giving animals pot, blowing vape smoke in a lizard's face, killing insects with it. I, the way he would describe it is, I'm packing a bowl. They see it and they're like, "Hey, man, give me some of that."
Yeah.
To him, that animal wants what he wants because if it's fun for him, they must love it too.
Yeah.
And I couldn't pull up a clip to kind of give you evidence of this, but I believe I've heard him say that his family told him not to, don't give pot to the dogs.
Yeah.
That this is something that he was told is not okay. And this is a reoccurring thing he would do. And then once he was out of his parents' kind of purview, he would just keep doing it. That's not something that I'm going to ever give him a pass on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not going to beat him up about it.
Yeah.
Really, this is the only time I'm going to bring it up. But I don't think that that's okay.
Yeah. I think he's probably good with animals, and it's probably good that his family had animals for him to be around, whenever they were around. But he's probably not the best person to have to take care of a life, any kind of life, maybe a bug, like when he had the praying mantis.
No, not a bug.
Which
can't be left in charge of bugs.
I mean, it died too, of course.
Yeah. The cats, he had that story where he found a cat in a cage outside. I didn't see it, but in my head, I'm assuming that it was a feral cat cage.
Yeah.
And when he saw a cat in a cage, he's just like, "Why is this cat here?" He let it out and it bit him.
Yeah.
And that was brought up today in chat was, can you get rabies and have a long-standing effect? Maybe it does some organ damage or something.
Yeah.
When you see things like that and you don't understand them, in Josh's case, maybe he should have asked an adult.
Yeah.
Which is funny because he was probably 30 at that point. But maybe you should ask somebody. There's probably a placard on the cage or something. But to him, it's just get your hands right in there and let this cat out. It's like, no, you're doing something dangerous for the cat, for yourself. Obviously, it bit him. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I would hope that if you went out of town and you were pals with him, you wouldn't say, "Hey, Josh, watch Charlie for a while."
Right. That's not, that's
goddamn well
happen.
what would happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's probably good that he
was
raised and lived in such a small town. Could you just imagine like him being in the middle of like New York City?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he would find a group of friends or blend in differently there. Who could say?
But how slow and sort of quiet things were probably worked to his benefit. I mean, near the end, it didn't matter since he was always inside of his house, but the earlier years when he'd be out and filming himself.
I'm sad he's gone, but I'm sure people are going to be talking about it for a long time because Josh was such a funny guy. He was such an interesting character. And my interest with people like him, and there's really nobody else like him, but interesting people on the internet is the thought process.
Yeah.
He had just a weird, interesting, non-typical way of dealing with things.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that so fascinating. I could just watch him fidget around an idea, a small little problem in life for 20 minutes. And it's so much fun to watch and just hearing him dissect it afterwards. Why did you do that? Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like you want to grab that can opener from him. Let me do this for you, goddammit. It's like
but then somebody reaches over and says, no, just let him cook.
Yeah.
Just let him. This could go on for 40 minutes, and we're gonna love every minute of it. Just let him go. This is great.
It's like my wife playing a video game and she can't do something. Like just give me that goddamn controller. Or hell, even at work, I'm trying to tell someone how to do something in AutoCAD. I'm like, move. I don't know if anybody's ever seen. I think it was Mad TV or maybe it was Saturday Night Live. There was some IT guy.
Bird Company's computer guy. That's an SNL thing.
It was like, move. And that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I don't want to show you how to do it. I want you to move so I can do it and then go back and finish my work.
No, because if you told him you're supposed to open surströmming underwater so it doesn't spray anywhere, what
Yeah.
would be the fun in that?
Exactly. God.
Yeah, so those were the main things I want to bring up.
Yeah.
The animal thing has always kind of stuck in my craw. I think he loved animals. I don't doubt that, but I think he loved them in the way that Lenny from Mice and Men loved
Yeah. Yeah.
animals. He wanted to pet their heads in,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
And
that's the difficult is that he's just a danger to them. And I don't feel like I'm beating up on Josh to say that, because this is not. I don't feel like I'm projecting ill intent onto him. I think that we have enough examples where this is played out with nobody else's intervention,
hmm
and it's been dangerous.
yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm kind of taking a shit on him now that he can't defend himself. And again, just so people are clear, I think everybody is sad that he's gone. Um, Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I think we'd all rather he was here.
Yeah, even
You know,
the ones who
was-
are shitting on him right now and saying a lot of horrible things, deep down inside, that they would rather him still be here as well.
yeah, the 10-year ago Josh content I think was peak when before he got into the loops. I
Mhm.
think most recently his food content was the funniest. The hot dog loop from a while ago, which was at the trailer, I think. Was it you that posted the thing where he had repeated himself 20 something times, or was that somebody
I
else's?
think it was
video?
somebody else. I've done one
Okay.
of Cyrax like that, but not Josh.
Okay, yes, yeah. You did the one where he kept signing off, right?
Yeah.
And I said, boy, that's really reminiscent of the hot. Somebody had him describing a hot dog, I think 23 times in a row,
Yeah.
and it just got funnier every time. So, I mean, he could still really kick out some bangers. And there was nothing wrong with that. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun to watch him. Um, you know,
I
I
mean,
just hope that people
pe-
kind of
people
look
don't.
at what he was and what he was doing in a honest light.
Yeah. I
And
mean, people don't
yeah,
just accidentally get 100,000 subscribers. I mean, it's definitely
Yeah.
he was definitely different. I mean, I don't know what the percentage of YouTubers that have over 100,000 subscribers, but it's not probably a big percentage.
yeah, it took him a while to build that up, but I'm glad that the subs went to him and not just to the peripheral channels.
Yeah. Yeah,
Although there was a lot
usually
of great content being made about it.
Yeah,
He
usually
deserves
it's the
some
content creators who have more subs than the content. But in this case,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think some of the other content that was made about him, I think those channels may have had more subs in a couple of the scenarios. But still, he was monetized, and most of these guys are not. The actual lolcows themselves are rarely the ones who are monetized.
I don't know. What can you tell me what you think about the addiction thing? Because I don't hear people talk about. To me, to my thinking, he was kind of a cautionary tale to watch what he went through, and I don't know if anybody could really intervene on that. But so I can't beat Clint up. I can't say, Clint, you should have gone to his house and
No.
had an intervention on camera or done something. Like, you can't fix that.
No,
That's people's.
that would make
it's tough.
things.
It's
If
too hard.
if he did it on camera, that would have made things.
No. Yeah, I'm saying I wouldn't try to tell him that
Yeah.
he should have done that. But what do you make of that not being brought up or not being part of the discussion? Like, hey, it makes me sad that to watch Josh go through this, or hey, if you have people in your life that are going through a tough time with alcohol,
Yeah.
maybe reach out to them while they're still here. Did you find that amiss that wasn't brought up, or
A little
do you
bit.
have any comment about
yeah,
that?
a little bit, but then I gotta kind of try to put myself in his shoes and not want to give anyone any ammunition to use against him and say that he was a bad father for not trying to control his son's drinking, knowing he couldn't.
Mm.
Everybody knows you're not going to control anything this guy does. I mean, short of putting him in a group home and having paying someone to do that, and then hell, would he break out? He might. That's the only thing I think that could have been done to save him, is forcibly have him like committed, and then immediately be put on like a bunch of drugs to chill him out, calm him down, and just sort of try to work in therapy that way. But then you don't know their financial situation. Could he afford, 24 hours a day, 7 day a week kind of mental help like that.
Yeah, I could see Josh needing $1,000 a day in care,
Yeah.
just having somebody around him. Maybe because he was already getting disability, which now I understand a lot more.
Hmm.
I thought with the whole thing where, and this is not a political bit of commentary, where he was supportive of Trump policies until he found out that he was going to have to contribute to the benefits he was getting.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I won't say funny, but ironic that he was, all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, I have to do something for what I'm getting. Like he
Yeah.
was frustrated by that, or he flipped around on that. But when I think about Josh, I'll always think about somebody who was a really severe alcoholic. Um, that's one of his defining features, to me at least,
Yeah.
is that he stayed drunk. That guy was trashed from the minute he woke up till the 5 times he passed out in the afternoon till he finally gave up at night.
Yeah.
I don't know
Definitely.
how much that weakens your heart. It has to be pretty severe,
Oh,
though.
yeah. I mean, it definitely seems he was drunk all the time. I mean, but we only know, you know, what he was like on stream, I mean, I doubt he started drinking 20 minutes before he started his stream. So I'm pretty sure he was drinking a lot during the day when he was just bored and had nothing else to do. Nothing good was on TV. So it was easier just to drink.
Well, I would imagine he must have been in like the detox territory,
I think
where he
if,
would
yeah,
have
if
woke
he,
up and had problems with it.
yeah, if he completely stopped, I think he would get the shakes. I mean, there were
Mhm.
times when he did get the shakes, even though he said he wasn't getting them, but you could see him
Yeah,
like he was
yeah.
wanting to crawl out of his own skin, and he had the shakes a little bit because it was when the
And
time he
and
got
it yeah,
arrested. The time he got arrested the last time, he tried to stop drinking so much after that.
but he would tell you like, I don't need alcohol to have a good time,
Right.
as he's making hooch in his closet and drinking beer. Um, I mean, he was really like a step away from hand sanitizer. I felt at times.
Yeah.
And this is the same guy who would smoke other people's cigarette butts and roll them into his pipe.
Yeah.
So that's the level of gotta have it that lived in Josh. Like
Yeah.
that's just the way he went day to day. Um, yeah, so I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts on Josh. There's obviously we could talk about him for hours and topic, but I don't really want to belabor the point. I'm sure everybody's got a whole litany of things that they would want to share about him. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few things that have always stood out to me about him. I don't know. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that, or if that sentiment was out of line, if people didn't agree with that, if they felt that he was a lover of animals and isolated incidents, or didn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
or if
I,
his
I think he
addictions
definitely,
really weren't
I think he
worth
definitely,
talking
I think
about. I
he
don't know.
definitely was a lover of animals, but still, he shouldn't be in control of them. He shouldn't be the one that's keeping them from life or death.
Yeah, yeah.
Having him over to play with the dog is one thing, but sending the dog home with him, nope, 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 nope. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know. I guess you can kick me off stream, or I can hang around if you want to have a chat about something else.
Nope, it's actually
I don't
11.
want
It's
to
a
tank
Oh no, it's like
want to tank your
11:30,
stream.
so I'm gonna be shutting it
Okay,
down here soon.
perfect.
But I definitely want to extend this to anyone else who ever wants to come on and talk about stuff like this. We can definitely make it happen. I like doing this a lot better than the just the insanity that is panel night, because it can get kind of crazy on panel nights, and just everybody talking at the same time. Yeah, bedtime for the 50-year-old man. I got to get up at 6 a.m. So what's that?
All right, thanks for having me, and
Six and a half
thanks, chat,
hours.
for being here. And
Oh,
appreciate you guys.
thank you for joining, and we'll
All right, guys, see you.
talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.
Good night. All right, everyone. Thank you all for hanging out tonight. I had a great time. Hope you did too. We'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m., which hopefully by that time I will have my Grift King glass so that we can maybe pour one out for Cobra. And whether or not we continue this conversation all depends on you guys. We'll see what happens tomorrow. You know, if everybody's still got Cobra in the fields, we'll continue. If not, we'll move on to something else. But enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone, and we will see you soon.